What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto has a black lightsaber? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Naruto grimaced at the thought. Yeah, I remember. He thought as he leapt off the beam into the streets below. Naruto was walking through the streets, avoiding the crowds like a plague. They always attacked with more ferocity on this day. The day of the Kyuubi no Kitsune's defeat. The day of Naruto's birth, 14 years ago. Naruto darted across the street, trying to make it out of the light-filled path to hide out of sight of the drunken villagers. He had been working on his speed, but when someone is looking in that direction, no amount of speed will help you. There he is, shouted one of the less drunk villagers. The others in the mob turned to see Naruto's blonde hair flash through the light. After him. Oh, shit, though Naruto as he threw himself into a sprint, running as fast as he could. He ran through the alleys and streets, jumping over trash and other pieces of refuse, listening to the angry mob behind him crash through the alley. Okay, left, left, straight, right again. Or is it left? Thought Naruto pausing at the T-split in an alley. He couldn't remember which way passed through Inu's patrol route and which led to a dead end. Left. Thought Naruto as he heard the self-proclaimed Avengers came closer and closer. Naruto darted down the alley, jumping over the many garbage bins. He turned the corner to find a dead end. Funny how that phrase is quite appropriate, wouldn't you say? Who said that? The only sounds of response were the crashes and bangs from the alley behind him. The villagers came around the corner to find Naruto staring back at them. They smiled as they looked past him, seeing the wall behind the blonde. One villager chose this moment to hurl a sake bottle at Naruto with astounding accuracy, considering he was half drunk. The bottle arced towards Naruto, aimed at his head. He thrust forward a hand to block the bottle, rather injure his hand instead of his head. For some reason he felt that something flowed through him, energizing his entire body. The bottle immediately changed direction, flying at such a high speed the villager didn't even see the bottle until it shattered, hitting him right between the eyes. He wavered for a second, trying in vain to regain his equilibrium, before passing out. The other villagers looked from the unconscious villager to Naruto and back again. Naruto looked at his hand for a moment before looking at the villagers, a smile forming on his face. He thrust both hands forward, focusing on the same feeling. Some form of power flew through the air towards the villagers, scattering papers and other pieces of garbage before it. It threw the villagers into the air, sending them back the way they came. Naruto looked at his hands once more. They seemed normal to him. Of course they seem normal, Yubaka, they're your hands. Naruto spun around, searching for the voice. The alley was empty, the only movement the fluttering papers tracing patterns through the air. Where are you? A flash of light exploded in his mind. Naruto stumbled back, falling to one knee, hand in front of his eyes. The first thing he noticed was the water that was all around him. He lowered his arms, looking around. Pipes and hallways were everywhere, twisting and turning as far as the eye could see. Come, said the voice. Naruto's head snapped up at the sound of the voice. He followed the echoes of the voice to one large antechamber. A gate separated the room in half. A piece of paper with the kanji for seal acting as a lock. Where are you? Asked Naruto, peering into the darkness behind the bars. A man stepped out of the darkness, wearing a cloak so red it was almost black. His eyes were hidden in the shadows of his cowl, yet Naruto felt their weight. I am here, within your mind, said the cloaked figure, gesturing around at the sewer-like room. This is my mind? Asked Naruto. Yes, this is your mind. The water is your unshed tears, said the figure. Naruto stepped closer to the bars, the cloaked figure moving with him till they were nearly face to face, only the bars separating one from the other. What are you? Asked Naruto. The cloaked figure threw back his hood, revealing black as night hair, yellow eyes set in a piercing face, and a smiling mouth. I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune, Lord of Demons, Destroyer of Mountains and Creator of Tsunamis. Cower before my might. Naruto just stared at the demon lord. Right, why the hell are you in my mind? This statement brought the Kyuubi up short. You remember what happened 14 years ago? Yeah, you attacked, but you're supposed to be dead. The Yondaime Hokage killed you, said Naruto, his brow furrowing in confusion. A human cannot defeat a demon king. Namikaze Minato only sealed me away into you, said Kyuubi, feeling a wave of nostalgia sweep over him. So, you're the reason I get beat up all the time? Asked Naruto, face growing angry for a moment. Hey, not my fault, shouted Kyuubi, his face growing angry as well. Somebody wearing a Konoha Hite ate and smelled like snakes attacked me and my family and ran like a coward. I merely followed him. I had to make sure he wouldn't attack my family again. Well, that's one for the history books, no? Haha, funny little human, but anyways, we're not here to talk about me. We are here to talk about what you just did to those villagers. I've only met 2 others like you and you have the most potential out of all of them. Potential for what? Asked Naruto. Shihai no Chikara. Mastery of the Force, explained Kyuubi. What's the Force? Asked Naruto. It's the mystical bond between every living thing. It surrounds us and penetrates us and binds the galaxy together. There are those who can channel the Force to affect the world around them. They can use it to push, hold immobile and pull objects or people. They can use it to influence the mind and create illusions. They can the Force to crush and hurl lightning bolts at their enemies. The Force can also be used to speed up, both physically and mentally, allowing you more time to make decisions. Some could use the Force to heal themselves or others. Some could even catch glimpses of the future while meditating, said the Kyuubi, remembering all the chats he had with friends of long ago. So, I could do all of that? Asked Naruto. Probably, I can sense the power within you, you only need the training. Cool, shouted Naruto, his voice echoing off the walls. Kyuubi winced as his ears flared in pain. Okay, time to go out into the world, said Kyuubi, sending a burst of energy at Naruto. Naruto came out of his mindscape and blinked. Nothing had changed. The papers were still floating to the ground, the sound of the villagers still picking themselves up off the ground around the corner. What the hell? Asked Naruto. Our conversations only take a millisecond in your world, said the Kyuubi. You can talk through my mind now? No, I'm talking through the person next to you. Really? No. Now we have to leave. Why? You want to train to learn, control and strengthen your abilities, do you not? Well, yeah, but what about the academy? What about Oji-san? Inu? My friends? Who? Haha, funny. We are leaving now because Inu and your Lord Hokage will try to keep us here. We need to go and find the last lair I know of where my old friends were staying. Okay, fine. What should I bring? Well, since you have little training in ninja skills as well as force skills, we might as well bring all your ninja tools. On second thought, leave them. They are of a such low quality, they won't last longer than a day or 2. So where are we going to get new ones? Easy answer. We steal what we need then send the Hokage the bill. Sounds like a plan, let's go. Naruto left the alley, stepping around the villagers who had crashed into walls and were still unconscious. He reached the mouth of the alley and stuck his head out, looking for any other villagers who wanted to kill him. Finding none, he snuck towards the shinobi section of the market quarter. He snuck into Higurashi weapons shop, since weapons were first on his and Kyuubi's required items list. The locked door did not deter him, as he bypassed it to enter through the air vents on the roof above. He popped open the vent, giving him a view of the dark inside of the shop. He dropped to the floor, waited a moment to make sure no one heard his entrance, and then grabbed a leather bag off a rack. Okay, first, grab a few sets of senbon, shuriken and kunai. We'll need them for shinobi training. Second, grab a zatoichi stick sword. We'll use that for training in the force. Why do we need the sword? All the abilities I've used so far are weaponless techniques, thought Naruto, stopping as he reached for a 4th pack of senbon. There are styles of swordsmanship that are superior to anything the ninjas can teach you. The stick sword will replicate the blade we'll use later on, when you build it, that is. Grab some ninja wire and a piece of cloth. Right, thought Naruto, grabbing a matte black-colored stick sword off a rack of other swords. He picked up a piece of cloth and tied it to the sword before slinging it on his back. He looked around for a moment before he sighted the circles of ninja wire hanging on hooks near the back. He grabbed a pair of rings and added them to the small assortment of weapons in the bag. Okay, I got the weapons, now what? We get you some new clothes. Naruto walked towards the door, passing through the shadow-filled room. Wait, shouted the Kyuubi, causing Naruto to jump through the roof. What? though Naruto tried to calm his racing heart. How are you going to lock the door from the outside? Good point. I'll just go back the way I came, thought Naruto, turning back to walk towards the air vent. As he passed the counter, he remembered to leave a note for the owner. He walked to the area of the floor underneath the open air vent. He looked up at the opening, about 5 feet above his head. Feel the power flowing through your legs, breathe in, and then jump. Jump lightly though. Naruto crouched down and concentrated on his legs. He immediately felt the flowing, energizing sensation he had felt before in his legs. He took a small breath and jumped, and nearly brained himself on the top of the air vent. Holy crap, I just jumped almost 12 feet in the air. What did I say? Jump lightly. Does he listen? No, of course not. I'm just the lord of all demons and immortal. Why would anyone listen to me? Oh, shut up, thought Naruto as he climbed through the air vent. Naruto emerged from the air vent, covered in dust and carrying his bag of stolen weapons. He looked up into the sky, watching the stars. By his reckoning, he had about 5 hours before the sun rises. He would have to be gone by then. You done complaining now? Asked Naruto in his head, since the Kyuubi had been complaining, in many different words that you would hear in any bar after 12 a.m. About the lack of brains Naruto had displayed in his escape from the weapon shop. Not by a long shot. But until later, we must resume our rather dubious means of acquiring items we will use on our trip. Replied Kyuubi, smirking. Where to next? Asked Naruto, looking around at the moonlit market district. The place had a calm feeling around it when there were no people bustling through it, throwing him hate-filled glares and rotten produce at him in attempts to drive him away. Enough remembering, we need to hit the clothing shop across the street. Your friend Haruno's parents own it, if I'm not mistaken. We need some new clothes. Once we're out of here, we are burning that hideous jumpsuit. Hey, they barely let me buy this thing at 5 times the actual price, let alone anything else. And another thing. Sakura is not my friend. She hates my guts. I know. She hates your guts cause I'm sealed in them. Enough chat, let's go. Jump to the next building, across the street. Use the force again. Naruto jumped again, soaring through the air to land 5 feet in on the opposite roof. I will never get tired of this, thought Naruto, as he walked towards the air duct opening. He opened the duct and climbed in. He slid down the vent and crawled to the grate into the opening to the store, bypassing the grates that opened to the different apartments above the shop. Okay, once you get down there, grab some dark gray shirts and pants, a mottled black hooded cloak, and a wide black belt, about 4 inches wide. Grab a few shuriken holsters and pouches as well. Also, grab a sewing kit and some material the same color as your clothing. Naruto searched around, going through the racks and shelves of clothing to find the required items. He picked several mottled gray t-shirts and pants as well as a black belt with attachments to hang pouches and other tools on. He had to search around for a little to find a cloak that was the right color and size for him, but he finally found one near the back. He found the sewing supplies and material right behind the counter. The pouches and holsters he found in the shinobi section, right where he saw them when he would wander the marketplace after class at the academy. He left a note on the counter and made to leave. Okay, let's go. Naruto used the force once again to access the air vent and made his way to the roof. Anything else? He asked, looking at his loaded bag of stolen items. Nope, we're good. Head for the gate and go north. That's where I last remember the hiding place of the last 2 people to manipulate the force like you do. Naruto ran across the rooftops, heading for the gate, using the force when needed to launch himself across streets, his bag of pilfered merchandise bumping into his back at every landing. Keep an eye out for those Enbu who patrol around here. They catch us, we get thrown in jail. I know, thought Naruto, looking around for any sentries. Don't depend on your eyes. How the hell am I supposed to see then? Use your other senses, including the force. Reach out with your mind and sense for others. Naruto stopped for a moment and closed his eyes. He slowly began to sense energy forms in the tapestry of the force. He felt 3 moving forms, all 3 walking along the rooftops. There, you see? Or rather, you don't see. You can feel people through the force, since the force connects all living things. With training, you will be able to sense people and intentions unconsciously. Okay, the Anbu are patrolling the streets ahead. Any idea how to get past them? If you had the training, I'd say influence their minds. Since you can't do that, I would go through the sewers. I hate the sewers, thought Naruto, jumping down to the street level. He was about to lift the manhole cover, then got an idea. He took a step back and lifted his hands to point them at the cover. He concentrated on the cover and let the force flow through him again. He slowly lifted his hands and, to his surprise, the manhole cover lifted as well. It rose as he lifted his hands higher. He kept his hands pointed at the lid as he walked forward and jumped into the sewer. He landed with a splash, ankle deep in sewage. He slowly lowered his hands to once again let the cover settle back into its groove. I really hate the sewers. I heard you the first time. Get moving, snarled Kyuubi. Naruto slogged his way through the sewer, holding his breath as much as possible. He finally came to a dead end. He looked up to see another manhole cover above. Tired of the sewer, the smell and the sewage he had waded through, he pushed the manhole cover with such force that it rocketed into the sky, nearly coming level with the archway on the gate. Naruto leapt out the sewer and caught the lid before it clanged on the street. Naruto faced the gates, looking out at the trees that surrounded his soon-to-be ex-home. Well, they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Here's ours, said Kyuubi, feeling Naruto's sadness about leaving his home. Naruto looked back at the four heads adorning the cliff face. I'll be back and protect this village like you did, thought Naruto as he looked at the Hokages forever immortalized in the rock of the cliff. With that, he turned and gathered the force. He looked over his shoulder one last time before launching himself towards the forest. His jump cleared most of the trees for about 100 meters. He landed on a tree branch and looked from where he had jumped to where he was now. Now, that is cool. Concentrate. We are not out here to have fun, we have to find that hidden dwelling of the other force users. Okay, thought Naruto as he resumed leaping from tree to tree. He continued to hurl himself through the air till morning, watching the scenery blur by, the sun rising in the east, and the animals that traveled on their own paths on the forest floor. I wonder if Oji-san got my notes yet. The Hokage was at his desk, beginning his day with the enemy of all Hokages, paperwork. On top of the pile were two notes from Naruto, one found in the Haruno clothing store and one in the Higurashi weapons shop. Curious about the contents of the letter, Hiruzen picked them up and opened them. Dear Oji-san, I have left the village to pursue training in secret. I have unfortunately been forced to collect weapons and clothing by rather dubious means. From the Higurashi weapons shop, I have taken 4 packages of shuriken, 3 packages of kunai, 5 packages of senbon, 1 Zatoichi-style stick sword, 4 rings of ninja wire. Please see to it that these items are paid for. I will repay you when I return. The old Hokage quickly looked to the second letter. From the Haruno clothing shop, I have taken 4 pairs of mottled gray pants, 4 mottled gray shirts, 1 sewing kit, 1 mottled black cloak, 3 meters of mottled gray material, 1 black belt. Please see to it that these items are paid for. I will repay you when I return. Hiruzen sat there for a moment, rereading the letters. He set the letters and turned to face the windows. Naruto, this is it? This is what I've run 4 days straight to find? Growled Naruto, his whole body trembling in anger. His eyes glared at the target of his rage, a cave. Yes, this is the place. Can't you feel it? The remnant of others here before you? Said the Kyuubi. Yeah, now that you mention it, I do feel something. A ghost of a presence, maybe 2, thought Naruto, slowly walking into the cave. The cave was a small one, the walls made out of a rough stone, stalagmites hanging down from the ceiling with sharp ends, water dripping into pools from the points. The cave looked as if no one had been in it for a long while. So, where's the teachings and tools and other such stuff that's supposed to be here? Asked Naruto, searching every possible nook and cranny. The Kyuubi chuckled within his mind. Remember, your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them. Stretch out with your feelings. Feel the cave. Naruto straightened and closed his eyes, focusing his mind. He felt the force flow through his body, relaxing his muscles and clearing his mind. In his mind's eye, he saw the cave stretched on for about 50 feet, then opened up to a large cavern. He opened his and saw the rock had been rearranged. Where there had been a seemingly rock-solid wall, now it was a passageway, exactly as his mind's eye had seen. Amazing, thought Naruto, walking to the passageway. I felt the rock, smelled the stone, saw it with my very own eyes. The force can be used to cloud the senses, make things feel and seem real and, in truth, be false," said Kyuubi. "Lucky for us, you are the most powerful I've met. Your illusions and skills will make those before you seem like parlor tricks." Naruto crept forward through the cavern, a pair of kunai in his hands. The Kyuubi had taught him some advanced kunai tricks during the nights before. The Kyuubi had complimented him on his ability to learn quickly. The tricks learned in the past 3 nights would be enough to overwhelm any attacker that may lay in wait. The passage grew darker as he walked deeper and deeper into the cave. When he felt the walls of the cave fade away, he could not see his hand in front of his face. "Well, I'll fix that." Naruto's body felt as if it was on fire, his blood boiling within his veins. He collapsed to the floor, curled into a ball and closed his eyes. He felt as if he had been dunked in acid, his skin and muscles rippling as red chakra filled the air around him. The pain lasted for 3 minutes, then faded to a dull ache. Naruto opened his eyes. He could see clearly as if he held a torch or a light in his hands. He could see the cavern, shelves with scrolls lining the walls, a tool bench on the far side, a variety of weapons beside it. An large open arena dominated most of the floor, half-columns, bricks and debris littering the floor. "What is this place?" "The training place of the last Toe people I knew who could use the force. I remember this place now." This was the largest of the caves, a grand library and training area for both the force users and their ninja counterparts. Naruto stepped closer to the wall. He noticed a shelf filled with a liquid that stretched out around the room. Reaching up, he dipped his finger into the liquid. He licked his finger. The taste was revolting. Naruto spat, trying to clear his mouth of the vile taste. "Oh, Kami, that tastes like crap. Light it." "Huh?" thought Naruto, puzzled at Kyuubi's instructions. "It's oil." "Oh." Naruto lifted his kunai and clashed them together, creating a shower of sparks. The oil ignited, the flames spreading on its shelf, bringing light to the entire room. "Well, that's an improvement." "Really? I had no idea." Naruto walked over to the first shelf and lifted the first scroll. He opened it and read the first line. "Meditation, the key to a clear mind. Meditation will help clear your mind and, through meditation, you could catch glimpses of the future." Naruto looked at the other scrolls on the shelf and the other 3 shelves. "This is going to take a while. Before we begin, you're going to learn Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. It creates solid bodies rather than illusionary clones like the regular Bunshin," said Kyuubi. "They also can use their own jutsu. When they are dispelled or killed, their memories are transferred to your thick skull. Keep taking shots at me and I'll change my mindscape to Hello Kitty." The Kyuubi gasped in fear. "You wouldn't dare." "No, I wouldn't." "What are the signs for the Kage Bunshin?" "There is only one. Simple enough for your idiotic mind. It is a modified ram seal in which your fingers form a cross." "Okay." Naruto formed the cross seal and channeled some charka. With a whispered, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," 20 clones of Naruto appeared. Not bad. Tell them to begin reading the first 21 scrolls." "Okay, guys. Grab the other 20 scrolls and begin reading. Dispel when you are finished," said Naruto, sitting Indian style on the floor and opening the meditation scroll. 3 hours later. "Oh, I told you dispelling all of your clones at once was a bad idea. Maybe you should have told me that it causes extreme headaches when large amounts of clones are dispelled," thought Naruto, his anger clear in his thoughts. "Did you learn a lot though?" Repressing the pain, Naruto sorted through the memories of the 20 clones. "Yeah, I learned a lot. The Force has 2 sides. The light side focuses on non-violent powers while the dark side focuses on destruction. Examples of the light side are the ability to heal with the Force and telekinesis. Dark side powers are grip, the ability to constrict the throat or internal organs of an enemy, or lightning. What else? Force powers are neither good nor evil, it's how you use them that makes the difference." "Good. Now, can you display any of these powers?" "I can try." "No. Do or do not, there is no try." Naruto raised his hands and concentrated on the bricks that were strewn in random piles around the training area. He called upon the Force, feeling the now familiar energizing feeling. He stretched out with the Force, mentally commanding the blocks to rise. The brick trembled, then lifted into the air. It hung in the air 3 feet above its fellows. Naruto smiled, then violently pushed the brick with his mind. It soared through the air before smashing into a column, causing it to fall on its side with a crash, crushing other bricks and sending dust flying through the air. Well, you've demonstrated the bare minimum of the use of telekinesis. We will need to work on that. Create more clones and have them practice alongside you. Naruto formed the cross-hand seal and whispered, Kage Bunshin not Jutsu, creating 10 other clones. As when they lifted their hands and focused on the bricks. 3 more hours later, the clones dispelled themselves one after another. They had been causing the blocks of stone to fly around the training cave, crashing them into each other and hitting the semi-upright columns. Naruto flinched as each clone was dispelled, 30 hours of information slowly accumulating in his head. He sifted through the memories, learning from all the mistakes he had made, through himself and the clones. Well, 1 day and 6 hours of telekinesis training. Not bad. Now, can you put the knowledge to good use? I know I can. Doesn't someone sound confident? Naruto closed his eyes. Without moving his hands, rocks rose into the air. Their sizes ranged from pebbles the size of a coin to the half-column that he had knocked over 3 hours ago. The rocks soared over to him, forming 3 rotating rings, each at a different angle. Naruto opened his eyes, reached out, and grabbed a floating rock the size of his palm. See? I'm much better, he thought, willing the rock to drift back to his fellows. It's true, you are better. Don't let it go to your underdeveloped brain. You can do this when you're focused. If you were in combat, how would you use your telekinesis powers? Naruto scowled. I'd figure something out, he thought, glaring inwardly at his demonic companion. We will work on this later. Now is the time for sleep. 3 days later. Wake up. Naruto woke at the sound of the Kyuubi's voice as he had done for the last couple of days. He stretched out his senses to alert him of any intruders. Finding none, he stood and walked to the shelves. Creating 20 clones, he ordered them to begin reading. They grabbed several scrolls each and began to examine them. We are not working on telekinesis today, stated the Kyuubi, his voice containing barely contained glee. What are you so happy about? Asked Naruto, growing slightly worried. The Kyuubi being happy probably meant trouble for him. Form a clone and grab your sword. I'm going to begin to teach you a couple of the 7 sword forms that the former force users had used. You mean the forms that you claim are better than anything the Konoha nen could have taught me? Wow, you remembered a conversation that happened more than 5 days ago. Maybe your brain is not as underdeveloped as I thought, stated the Kyuubi, grinning within his cage. I will end you, threatened Naruto, glaring inwardly at the demon fox. You may try, Deshi no Chikara, you may try. Threats aside, make that clone. Naruto formed the now familiar hand sign and formed a clone. Both held their words at their sides, unsure of what to do. The other clone was surrounded by a cloud of transparent red chakra. The clone took on animalistic features. His pupils changed from spherical irises to vertical slits and changed from Naruto's cerulean blue to the Kyuubi's piercing yellow. His whisker birthmarks lengthened to stretch from his jawline to the center of his cheeks. His fingernails lengthened to form claws. His hair turned black and spiked. The cubified clone stretched his neck, popping as he rotated his head. It's good to be out, don't you think? Asked Kyuubi, waving at Naruto with his clawed fingers. How the hell did you get out of my gut? I'm not out. I'm merely controlling a clone, though I did transform him a little so it looks like me, stated the Kyuubi. If it makes you feel any better, I can only use as much charka as you give me. You can also just dispel me like a regular Kage Bunshin. Well, that's a load off my mind, said Naruto, unsheathing his sword. Hey, what's with the look? Asked Kyuubi, eyeing the blade in Naruto's hand. Payback's a bitch. Ah, shit. Approximately 3.5 hours later. Come back here. Stand and fight, Lord of Demons. What's the matter? Scared of me? Kyuubi jumped through the air to land on the ceiling, avoiding a slash from Naruto's blade. Oh, come on. What are 1 or 2 beatings because of me being sealed in your guts, right? Kyuubi was forced to dodge kunai, shuriken, and senbon, the throwing weapons lodging deep in the rock ceiling. I really should have waited to teach him those ninja techniques, thought Kyuubi as he dodged a particularly close shuriken. 1 or 2? Try hundreds. When I'm finished with you, you're gonna cower at every shadow. Ya know what? Fuck this, thought Kyuubi, drawing his own sword. He threw the scabbard away, leaving his hand free in case he needed it for extra heavy blows. Okay, Naruto, time for your lesson. Kataichi-san. Soresu, shouted the Kyuubi, adopting a stance with the handle of his sword near his right thigh and the tip near his left shoulder. With a blur o his hands, Kyuubi deflected the incoming weapons, batting them away seemingly effortlessly. He seemed to be the eye of a storm, his blade forming the wind that isolated him from the destruction that surrounded him. Naruto, remember, the sooner you release your anger and this thought of revenge, the sooner we can get back to your lesson, said Kyuubi, lowering his blade as the stream of weapons slowed and stopped. Good point, but I couldn't resist. Well, I did cause you to be beaten almost daily, so revenge would be first on my mind. Now, let's get to work, said Kyuubi, beckoning Naruto forward and adopted his stance once again. Copy what I do, said Kyuubi, shifting his blade slowly through patterns in the air. Naruto mimicked him as best as possible, though he did stumble quite a bit. This is the third form, Soresu. This form is the most defensive of all 7 forms, he said, rotating his sword through the air, as if warding off throwing weapons. Those who become practitioners of this form use it to wear down an opponent before dispatching him, counter-attacking when their opponent makes a mistake. It requires the utmost patience, something we might have to work on in your case. Remember this well. Soresu has no preemptive strikes. They went through the pattern for about 3 hours before Kyuubi stopped. Naruto looked at him with a question-filled glance. Create shadow clones and have them attack you. Learning the pattern in a controlled environment is useless when in the outside world. Practice by defending yourself from the clone's attacks. This will give you combat experience. With those words, Kyuubi dispelled himself. Well, might as well try it, thought Naruto, forming 10 cage bunchins. They circled Naruto, lifting their swords in preparation for battle. Go! The clones darted forward, 3 dashing low for sweeping attacks while the others went for overhand attacks and stabs. Naruto angled his blade, deflecting 2 stabs and an ankle sweep attack. His blade blurred as he spun to avoid and deflect the other stabs and the attacks from above. He saw 1 clone over lunge in his stab. There's a mistake. Now, for the counter. Naruto chopped down on the offending clone's sword, then swung his sword in a horizontal arc, separating the clone's head from the rest of his body. Not bad, considering, said Kyuubi as the clone's headless body hit the ground and burst into smoke. Considering what? Considering you've got 9 left. Naruto felt another pair of clones take swings at his neck, aiming to decapitate him while 1 clone in the front took a stab at him. He tossed his sword into his left hand, lifting it over his head to stop both blades. He caught the stabbing clone's hand and pulled it past him, causing the clone to stab another. 2 down, 8 to go, thought Naruto as he smiled. The 8 had formed a line in front of him, offering a forest of blue steel to Naruto. He smiled as he lifted his sword with his mind, having it spin in full circles in midair, forming a barrier between the clones and himself, while beckoning the others forward with his right hand. The 2 outermost rolled forward, stabbing forward with their blades, seeking flesh. 3 of their companions leapt forward towards Naruto, swinging their blades in upward arcs while the other 3 accessed the force and leapt over his head. Naruto grabbed his sword out of midair and stabbed it into the dirt, deflecting the stabs with the blade. His riposte gutted the first and a quick lightning quick slash marked the chest of the other would-be stabber. The 3 leaping attackers tried for chest slashes. Naruto used 3 lightning-fast taps of his blade, sending them flying past him. The 3 behind him landed and spun around to try for a stab in the back. Their stabs sunk home, into the chests of the clones Naruto had just deflected. Naruto turned to see the impaled clones burst into smoke. He smiled, seeing the fear in his clones' eyes. "Anyone want to surrender?" he asked, swapping his sword hand once again. The 3 clones looked at each other, looked back at Naruto, and shrugged. "Nah, I thought as much." Naruto adopted his Soresu stance, waving them forward. The clones dashed forward, their blades drawing blue arcs in the air. The first went for a stab, angling his blade to stab between the ribs into Naruto's heart. Naruto spun his sword to a reverse grip, blocked the stab and countered with a blind reverse stab. The end result was a poof of smoke. 8 down, 2 to go. "And then, there were 2, said Naruto, turning to his remaining opponents. The 2 clones attacked as one swinging for a beheading strike while the other tried to remove Naruto's legs at the knees. Naruto took a step forward, leaned back and pulled a corkscrew flip, spinning in the air between the two arcs of steel. He landed as the two others fumbled to launch a second attack. He spun around, drawing his blade through their chests. They stumbled forwards before bursting into smoke. Well, that's that. Impressive for only learning those moves 3 hours ago. Do we move on to telekinesis or create more clones and fight again? Continue with the Soresu training. We'll continue the training for another week and a half, then I will teach you the next form, Ataru," said Kyuubi, smiling within his prison. Another week and a half? Fine, time to kill more clones. Naruto formed 15 clones. They drew their swords, blades, winking in the firelight. Naruto sighed, here we go again. 1 week and a half later. Naruto knelt in the center of a circle, his head bowed in concentration, his eyes covered by a scrap of cloth. His blade was within the sheath on his back. 50 clones surrounded him, blades winking in the firelight. Naruto stood, drew his sword. The blade gleamed blue between the black seals engraved on the blade. Naruto had carved the seals into his blade as a precaution, in case the steel blade were to shatter in the training. Kyuubi had taught him the seals when Naruto voiced his concerns to him. The seals would make the blade 5 times its original strength. He raised his head and spoke one word. Come. The clones attacked, blades displacing the air, slashing, hacking, and stabbing. Naruto's blade formed a blur deflecting and countering every attack that was thrown at him. He repelled attacks from every direction, even from behind, with ease. The wave of attacks began to thin as the clouds of smoke around Naruto continued. The last clone ran forward to attack from behind. Naruto held his blade in a horizontal barrier behind his head. Their blades clashed. Naruto pushed the clone's blade down to the ground, then severed the clone's head from its body. He pulled off his blindfold, looking around at the clone who continued to read through the battles. How was that? Very good. You truly have become a master of Soresu. I might even go so far to call the master of Soresu. And only in a week and a half. Much better than the last 2 masters. What's next? Kataichi Shi. Ataru. This was one of the more recent sword combat forms developed. It emphasized acrobatic strength and power in wielding the blade, attributes which were frowned upon by many traditional masters. Ataru relies on wide slashes, acrobatic proficiency and an open space for the practitioner to fight. One basis for the acrobatic nature of Ataru is that the sword can damage with brushing, light strokes, rather than hard chopping motions of other styles. Ataru practitioners are at a great disadvantage if fighting in a small area. In dire situations, Form IV practitioners use the force to aid in their acrobatics. Spinning, jumping very high and running very fast, masters of Form IV are sometimes only seen as a blur. In order to achieve the acrobatic prowess, amazing reflexes and physical punch of this form, a master would focus on the force, letting it flow deeply throughout his entire physical being, even allowing him to overcome the limitations of old age or poor conditioning. Due to its aggressive nature, it is an effective form to use against single enemies but leaves the user open to attacks from multiple opponents. Ataru is better suited to dueling than open warfare. Great. Time to teach. Naruto formed a clone and Kyuubi took over, making the physical changes he enjoyed. Time for your torture, said Kyuubi, a foxy grin plastered across his face. You mean training, don't you? Asked Naruto, drawing his sword. Nope, torture, said Kyuubi, unsheathing his own blade. Oh, fuck, here we go again. You know, we should work on some more force powers. I've already learned Soresu, Makashi, Ataru, Shin, Gemso, Nieman, Vaipad and Juyo. The first form is next to useless now that I've learned all the others. You've already learned to meditate, use telekinesis in and out of battle to the utmost degree, how to influence someone's mind, and you've learned to use the force to augment your physical skills such as hit harder, react and move faster and jump higher. The only things left, that I know, are absorb, lightning and drain. Naruto sat cross-legged in the cave, thinking about the 6 forms he had learned in the past 3.5 months. Makashi he had learned as a precaution, since Makashi was made for blade-to-blade combat. It is described as being very elegant, powerful, and requiring extreme precision, allowing the user to attack and defend with minimal effort, while her opponent tires herself out. The form relies on parries, thrusts, and small, precise cuts as opposed to the blocking and slashing of the other forms. The blade manipulation required is very refined and requires much focus, but the results are extremely potent. As ranged weapons such as shuriken come into play, the advantages of this form of blade combat become less useful, but it is still potent against multiple opponents. Form 2 emphasized fluid motion and anticipation of a weapon being swung at its target, allowing the master to attack and defend with minimal effort. Although many master historians considered Form 2 to be the ultimate refinement in blade-to-blade combat. He enjoyed this form, allowing him to fight many clones at once while not being on the defensive. Also, the use of the force with this form made it easy to take out many clones with a single blow. Shin and Gem So were the next form he learned. By comparison, Gem So demonstrated an even higher level of physical strength and aggressive moves than Shin. It is believed that Shin and Gem both fall under the category of Form V, much like Juyo and Vaipad are both Form 7, with Shin better at dealing with ranged weapons and Gem So better at blade-to-blade combat. It can be described as a mix of medieval swordsmanship and kendo. Form V was developed by a group of masters who felt that Form 3 was too passive, while Form IV was not powerful enough. It addressed the shortcomings of both forms, in which a master may have proved to be undefeatable but could not overcome the enemy. Among the many unique aspects of Form V was the development of techniques in which the sword was used to deliberately deflect a ranged weapon directly back at the thrower. Form V is a powerful style developed by Form 3 practitioners that preferred a more offensive angle. The defensive nature of Form 3 often leads to dangerously prolonged combat. Embodying the perfection of the idea of counterattack, Form V maintains its existence through having sufficient defensive skills, as derived from Form 3, but channeling defense into offense. While Form 3 combatants effortlessly deflect shuriken and other ranged weapons, Form V practitioners excel at redirecting the offending weapon toward the opponent. This simultaneously defends the user and efficiently injures the opponent. Form V is also different from Form 3 in the fact that Form V practitioners believe that the best defense is a good offense. It has already been observed that Form 3 users simply deflect kunai, shuriken, etc. and parry blade attacks until the opponent makes a fatal mistake. Form V practitioners use the near impenetrable techniques of Form 3, then reverse the defensive style into an attack, using wide, sweeping blows in an attempt to overwhelm the opponent with pure force. Kyubi said the masters of this style would lock blades with another then force them back, casually throwing them around and pressing the attack. Form V also uses elements of Form 2. However, where Form 2 concentrated on precise and elegant parries, Form V permits the user to actually fully block and repel attacks since it calls for the use of more powerful, force-enhanced strength. A dedication to the power and strength necessary to defeat an enemy characterizes the philosophy of Form V, which some masters describe by the maxim, peace through superior firepower. To some masters, Form V represents a worthy discipline prepared for any threat. To others, Form V seems to foster an inappropriate focus on dominating others. The aggressive philosophy of Form V is the source of many a master's disapproval. With the offensive but refined movements of Form 2 and the highly defensive postures of Form 3, Form V has been proven to be a highly effective style. Both Form V and 7 call for its user to use emotion to enhance their strength. Form V users can best be described as bold, powerful, fearless and confident. They are unafraid to let their emotions rule them and contribute to the fight, though they are wary of falling to the dark side. A master Form V stylist will be able to pull back from the abyss of the dark side. Kyubi said the masters of this style would lock blades with another then force them back, casually throwing them around and pressing the attack. The sixth form, Neiman, he had learned only for one reason. Form V is the stepping stone to the dual lightsaber form, known as Jarkai. No one who has successfully mastered Jarkai has done so without first mastering Neiman. It was for this reason Kyubi bothered to teach this form. Form 7, Juyo and Vaipad, was learned last. Anybody who views an initiate of this style will witness many sword strikes that appear simultaneous. The most challenging and demanding of all forms, Form 7 requires intense focus, high levels of skill, and mastery of other forms. Juyo is portrayed as a powerful but precarious form that sacrifices defense against both weapons and the force in return for greater dexterity and strength of attack. Every blow from a master of Form 7 Juyo threatened to be a life-ending critical strike. Vaipad goes beyond being a fighting style as it becomes a state of mind and a power. The state of mind requires that a user of Vaipad be allowed to enjoy the fight and be given over to the thrill of battle and the thrill of victory. Naruto had just started leaning Jarkai a handful of days before, trying to get a dual sword wield into his many styles of fighting. So far, he was less than he would have liked, but, in Kyuubi's eyes, it was a passable combat style. Not his most comfortable style, but one he could use nonetheless. He also began to throw in elements of a non-sword style called Dun Mach. Dun Mach is a style of combat that aims to defeat an opponent by wearing down his or spirit by whatever means possible, rather than solely relying on sword skills. Dun Mach commonly involves spoken taunts, jeers, comments, and jests that expose the opponent's hidden, inner weaknesses and/or doubts. Other variations of Dun Mach involve usage of the force to throw large, weighty objects at the master's opponent during combat, which both distracts the opponent from the battle and could potentially cause damage. Another variation involves physical attacks such as kicks and punches. The punches and kicks delivered during a sword lock took many of the clones by surprise, not expecting the blows since such attacks display the obvious risk of the user having their limbs removed, so their psychological impact is great. Naruto was so caught up in his reminiscence that the Kyuubi had to jolt him out of it. "Kid, get your head out of the clouds and continue with your lessons. We have so few lessons to learn and so much time to learn them in," said Kyuubi. He thought about what he had just said and recognized his mistake. "Strike that. Reverse it. Alright, how do I perform absorb? As the name implies, you absorb force attacks or chakra-based attacks, then convert it into energy into that which you can use. For instance, one of your clones performs a Kaden Gukakyu no Jutsu at you. You use absorb and suck in the fireball and channel it into unused chakra energy. You will experience an amount of pain. The more powerful the attack, the more painful it is. 3 hours and 15-second degree burns later. Ow, you nearly had it that time. Try again." Naruto waited till his burn had finished healing before beckoning his clone to cast another Gukakyu no Jutsu. The clone flashed through the required signs and spat a huge stream of fire at him. Naruto raised his hand as if he were going to catch the flames, channeling the force for the 88th time, trying to turn the conflagration back into the chakra that he could use. It was a lot harder than the Kyuubi had led him to believe. Just before the blaze consumed his hand, the chakra turned inferno disappeared. Naruto suddenly felt his chakra levels rise as the fire seemed to be consumed in midair. "Well done. I'm lucky I have you to heal me, or we would have been in trouble 3 hours ago. I am amazing, aren't I? No. What is next? Lightning or drain? Drain. It is almost like absorb, except you absorb chakra, energy or life force straight from the source, the human body. It should be relatively easy to learn. How am I going to practice when the only living thing here is me? Your clones have life force. That is why you can sense them in the tapestry of the force. They will suffice for now." "Great." Naruto looked over towards the wall. Without hand seals or speaking, 20 clones poofed into being. Without a word, they lined up and stepped forward. Naruto raised his hand to rest in midair on the level of his doppelganger's chest. "Thus begins my draining training. Hey, I just made a joke. A fairly poor one at that. Get back to work." 30 minutes later, "Well, I learned that one fast enough. I did say that it was very similar to absorb," said Kyuubi as he leaned against the wall with Naruto, watching his veritable clone army practice fighting. The sword forms Kyuubi taught him were mixed freely with ninja techniques. Every now and then, Naruto would have to use the force to stop a random kunai or shuriken that had missed its mark. "Very true. Now, all that's left is lightning, correct?" asked Naruto, tilting his head to look at the Kyuubi with an evil-like grin on his face. "Yes, lightning is next." Noticing the look on Naruto's face, he asked, "Why do I get the feeling that this will be your new favorite move since the sword throw and force crush?" Naruto's smirk grew wider, threatening to split his skull. "Why else? It is a purely offensive move that has nothing else to offer than complete violence. From what you've told me, it can be used to simply jolt someone into unconsciousness or outright kill someone. There are many ways to use it. Some have used it in a solid arc, some in a wave. Some even sent a solitary strand into an opponent then have it multiply inside his body. The masters of old were very thorough in their experiments of this particular skill. The two I met were very well versed in their application of this particular art of the Force. These two were very active in their mercenary activities. The only way to actively kill or neutralize others without gaining a criminal record was to be in the service of others, said Kyuubi, turning back to watch one clone stab another through the heart while others crushed and threw each other through the air. Some even chose to follow their creator's preferred move, hurling their swords through the air in a boomerang-like arc to slice throats, eviscerating, slashing, gutting, mutilating, maiming. Kyuubi looked back at Naruto. Naruto's face started twitching, the deaths of his clones replaying in his mind. He grinned. The more I learn, the more I die, the more violent my clones' lifespans become. He turned back from the battle royal. Well, what clone kills me makes me stronger, Kyuubi began to laugh along with Naruto, laughing at the humor of his comment, laughing at the carnage happening not 50 feet away. Heh. Well, we have to get back to work. Lightning, you have to focus the force down your arm to your palms or your fingertips. Release the pent-up energy in arcs, bolts of lightning. Focus on many smaller arcs for now. We will focus on a single bolt later. Let your power arc bend, arch. Feel the power flowing through you. Naruto raised both his hands, focusing on the power beginning to build at his fingertips. He sighted, using the L's formed out of his thumbs and forefingers to aim. He focused once again on the power building in his fingers. He focused on the power, feeling it flow, feeling the force compress. Let it go. Now, commanded Kyuubi, feeling the amount of force Naruto had, quite literally, at his fingertips. The masters he had known back in the day could not have summoned that amount of force without killing themselves. It was a terrifying prospect. Here goes nothing, thought Naruto as he let the pent-up energy fly. The result was fearsome. Blue-white arcs of energy lashed out, striking out at the clones with blinding auras of light. The fingers of electrical energy ripples outwards, tracing burning caresses over the doppelgangers. They seemed to glow before they exploded, smoke clouds rising in the chamber with lightning bolts flickering through them, making shadows become light and light become shadows. The onslaught of energy finished as the energy left Naruto's fingertips. The pure white halo faded from his hands. He let his hands drop, the tips of his fingers smoking slightly, the burns, resulting from the huge amount of power, healed within a few seconds. Well, that was fun, said Naruto, leaning back against the wall, breathing heavily. That was definitely a killer move. He turned his head to look back at Kyuubi. We'll have to do that again, when I have more control. Well, I'm glad I'm not on the receiving end of that. That definitely would have killed an army. We might have to be more careful with that power. Time to sleep, no? Asked Naruto, watching Kyuubi out of the corner of his eye. Yep. Tomorrow we focus on scroll reading and ninja skills. I've taught you all I can. It's time to learn the arts of the masters by yourself. This place wasn't built so the knowledge on how to kill or heal with a thought was to be handed out like candy at a parade. You have to earn the power. Learn, practice, master, and then repeat. That is your path now. When we finish here, we'll go back to Konoha and begin a new life. Rather than be the demon brat, you will make your own destiny, feared or loved, hated or cherished, worshipped or damned, it's all your decision. A burst of blue-white lightning linked Kyuubi's chest and Naruto's fingers for a split second. Then Kyuubi was dispelled. Oh, shut up, said Naruto before falling asleep propped up against the wall. Next day, wake up. Naruto immediately used the force to sense around the area. He had begun to do this daily, making it a habit. Kyuubi had taught him to be ever vigilant. He had not dispelled himself like normal when Naruto had fallen asleep a few weeks ago. He waited until Naruto was almost awake before attacking him. Naruto had responded with an instinctive force crush, sending the cubified clone flying through the air, its torso crushed. Kyuubi had begun laughing as soon as he was back in his mind. Since then, he had begun scanning his surroundings as soon as he was done meditating, sleeping, or any other activity that took his mind off his surroundings. After a few weeks of that, Naruto began scanning every few minutes. He started this when one of his clones had found that scanning with the Force would cancel any genjutsus that had been placed on him. What's on my agenda for today? Create about 200 clones. Have half begin reading scrolls. They'll learn all the Force-related moves and techniques that I can't teach you. The other half will be taking instructions from me, learning ninja techs. Those, I know quite well, having lived among your kind for thousands of years. Naruto stretched, his neck popping as he tilted it left and right. He merely looked at the cave floor and formed the clones needed. He finished stretching when he realized something. Kyuubi had not told him to do anything. What am I doing? Kyuubi smirked. You, my intellectually challenged jail cell, will be focusing on physical training. Start with some laps, around 30. Each lap better be more than 12 kilometers or I'm gonna mess with you. Then, do around 2,000 inverted push-ups, hanging sit-ups, and all the stretches you know. Why? Because I'm getting tired of listening to you mope. Get running, said Kyuubi, pointing to the cave entrance with a kunai. Fine, fine, said Naruto, laying back on the ground before flipping into an upright position and taking off running. 4 hours, 30 minutes, 12 seconds and 400 muttered curses later. Naruto. What? Thought Naruto, just finishing his last stretch. Pulling the splits was a pain, even though the pain vanished in seconds. Your clone found something interesting. Something I overlooked. The masters carried a certain weapon. A weapon that was unmatched by any weapon of the shinobi. They were called lightsabers. These weapons were metal handles that emitted a blade of light. The handle itself could be ornamental or plain, depends on the user's choice, but the blade was important. Said Kyuubi quickly, almost stumbling over the words in his haste. The blade could cut through almost anything. A certain form of metal could stop the blade, as well as another blade. The blade would burn straight through a 4-foot thick steel wall like a razor blade cutting through rice paper. These weapons were modified for different uses. Some for killing, some for training, some that would even knock an opponent unconscious if he was hit. Nice, thought Naruto, sliding up from the splits and beginning to run at full speed to the cave. He tapped into the Force and disappeared. He reappeared in front of the clones. Nice, you got here in half a second. Not bad, said a clone, walking forward with a pair of scrolls in his hands. Here's the scroll. It has instructions on how to build these lightsabers and what materials are required for construction. There are storage seals in this scroll, he said, lifting one scroll. I've already checked it out and this one holds some, if not all, of the parts we need to build these. Also, they have instructions on how to create more of the same pieces. Good work. You've read the instruction scroll? Asked Naruto. At his clone's nod, he smiled. Dispel and let me begin construction. With a poof of smoke, the clone disappeared. Knowledge filled his head, the memories of the instructions flooding through his head. Oh, this will be fun. 4 hours of hard work later. What am I missing? I built it exactly as it says and it won't work. One clone leaned over his creator's shoulder, reading the instructions and looking over the finished project. I see 2 things wrong with it. First, it says you need a gem to provide a focus point for the power pack. Second, once the gem is in place, you have to meditate with it. The Force will bond the pieces of metal together, making it a solid weapon. Without this bonding, the blade won't activate. Naruto reread the instructions, reading the footnotes this time. He noted that the blade color was influenced by the color of the crystal. Damn it, where am I going to get a gem? I've unsealed every seal in the scroll and there are no gems in any of them. A clone shivered before taking the Kyuubi's appearance. Well, there are 2 options. Really? Asked Naruto, looking over his shoulder at the clone. Number 1. You can start digging at the back of the cave and hope you hit pay dirt. Number 2. You can do what you did with your weapons and clothes. You mean stealing again? Asked Naruto, the reluctance clear in his voice. We've already stolen stuff. What are we supposed to do? Become jewel thieves? Yep, I already sent a clone to the city. He will find out if anyone knows about anyone who has any types of gems that you would find useful. I suggest that you dispel a clone that knows what color that you want. Fine, I want a black or red blade, therefore I will need a black or red gem. A clone dispelled. Naruto resumed his construction, making many hilts of varying designs and lengths. 3 hours later, the clone in the city dispelled himself. Naruto immediately sorted through the clone's memories. According to the clone, There were many black opals in the treasury of the daimyo, as well as some minor nobles in Kumogakure. Rubies can be found in Konoha, but that is out of the question, since if I go back, Oji-san won't let me leave again. Some are in Sanagakure, in the necklace of the Casecage's daughter. Other than that, we could always hit up some black market jewel cutters, see if they have what we need, but that could take a while. What do you think, Kyubi? Take the ones from Kumo and Suna. I don't want us to be wanted criminals when we steal from the daimyo, and I know we can't go back to Konoha. Kumo and Suna are our only options. The black market dealers would take too long. We need to do our own shopping. Great, just what we need. Naruto turned to the clones and spread his arms. Gentlemen, saddle up. Road trip. With ringing cheers, the clones dispelled themselves. Well, they seem excited. Just get moving. Fine, thought Naruto as he packed the lightsaber handles into one of his arm storage seals. He turned to the cave entrance and began running. This would be easier if you gave me some directions. Here's your directions. Turn left 20 degrees and keep running till you hit desert. We'll talk more when you get there. Easy for you to say. I'm the one doing the running. Kyubi sighed. Since you have me, I constantly regenerate your body. This also includes removing the lactic acid buildup on your muscles. Also, you are not using the force. Use it and speed up. We only have about 4 months before the genin exams at the academy. Yeah, I know. Don't worry. We should be in Suna in about 5 hours, right? Only if you put the pedal to the metal. Enough stalling, run like the wind. Naruto accesses the force, feeling it flow through every fiber of his being, energizing, healing, strengthening. His feet began to move so fast that he barely touched the forest floor. The leaves were silent as he passed, unseen to the normal eye, until the displaced air went through them, hurling them around with hurricane-like force. Trees passed in quick succession, yet Naruto never felt the need to slow down. His eyes took in every detail, the rocks on the ground, leaves in the wind, the animals in their hollows and burrows. This is amazing. Why didn't you tell me I could go this fast when I was doing laps? You wouldn't build your strength that way, said Kyubi, pacing the halls of his cage, remembering the days of old, of the time when he would spar the masters, trying to avoid their near-godlike speed. Even he had a hard time facing them. 4.5 hours later. So, this is the famous Sanagakure you told me about? Thought Naruto as he walked towards the gates. The walls were thick, thicker than the ones in Konoha. Not bad. If the architects that built Suna used similar plans for Konoha, their cage tower and living quarters should be close to the center of town. Roll out. Aye, Captain. Thought Naruto as he gave the Kyubi a mental snappy salute as he walked towards the city that contained, somewhere, the first set of jewels that would build him his lightsaber. As he emerged from the narrow entrance, a Suna nin on guard duty approached him, barring his way into the city. Excuse me, I need to see your identification papers please, the guard said, holding out his hand, waiting for Naruto to produce the needed papers. Naruto grinned at him and waved a hand in front of the guard's face. You don't need to see my papers, he said, invoking the force to mess with the guard's mind. I don't need to see your papers, repeated the guard, withdrawing his hand. I can go about my business. You can go about your business, said the guard, gesturing Naruto along, allowing him passage into the city. That was easier than I thought Naruto as he grinned and strolled through the city streets, taking in the many sights. He threaded his way through the crowds, at ease because of the lack of hostility aimed at him like back home in Konoha. The force will have that type of effect on the weak-minded. Your powers will be able to sway much more powerful foes than the masters I know ever could. Naruto walked towards the heart of the city, easily located by the large cage tower looming over every other tower in the desert city. Naruto leapt to the rooftops in a single bound, looking around for the dwelling of the cage and his family. It only took him moments to find the building, the sign of the cage marking the door. He did a quick sense, getting the layout of the house and any occupants around it. This should be relatively easy. All the guards are far away and only 2 boys and a girl are in there. All I have to do is get to the girl's room, use the force and put her to sleep, then grab some rubies. Then you get out of here and head for Kumo, after stopping at an oasis to see if the rubies work in your lightsaber, of course. But, of course, I must check that things are in good condition. After all, Kumo is much more hardcore with their military. I might need a weapon that is greater than my sword, thought Naruto as he was fingering the handle of his sword beneath the folds of his cloak. Kyuubi chuckled. Oh yes, Kumo is much heavier on military, last time I checked. You might even have a problem getting in. Kyuubi just couldn't resist taunting Naruto. But, if you're caught, maybe the force isn't that strong in you after all, said Kyuubi, a grin on his face so wide it threatened to split the Demon King's face. There are only so many things you can do in a cage. Number 1 is pissing off your jailer, which Kyuubi excels at. Funny, Kyuubi. I thought so. You think? After being stuck in your head for 14 years, I'm surprised myself. Alright, enough. Here's a plan. You create a distraction and I'll get to the cage's daughter's room. I like that plan, it's a good plan, but I have one question. How are we gonna do that? 5 minutes later, Kaden. Karyu Enden no Jutsu. Shouted Kyuubi, targeting a shinobi guard station with a fiery attack. This will keep them after me, he thought as he turned away, starting to run in case the guards were good enough to catch him right off the bat. Yeah, right. Kyui set off, taking a randomized course leading away from the cage's dwelling. With any luck, Naruto would make it in and out before anyone noticed. With Naruto, as soon as he heard Kyuubi begin his attack, he began walking down the side of the building, heading for the dwelling. Suna Nin flew by, trying to apprehend the attacker. Kyuubi's attack is going well. Let's hope the 14 years in me hasn't dampened his abilities, thought Naruto as he walked across the street, wrapping a piece of fabric around his head to mask his face and his hair. It was already mostly hidden beneath his hood, but there was always a chance. He began to climb the wall, using his hands as well as his feet, heading for the window to which he believed was the daughter's room. Reaching the window frame, he sensed the room. Nothing felt wrong, but the cage's daughter was beginning to approach her room. This is going to be fun. He unlocked the window with the force and slid into the room. He checked the room looking for the rubies he needed. He was still searching when the door began to slide open. A quick jump into the corner hid him, his back pressed into the top corner of the room. A blonde entered the room, wearing a tan dress that left her shoulders bare and fishnet under armor. Right on the line between practicality and flaunting, almost like that Tokubetsu Junin back home, thought Naruto as she walked over to the wall where a giant battle fan rested on its pegs. As she began to remove the weapon from the wall, Naruto dropped silently from the ceiling. Konnichiwa, what is your name? She looked over her shoulder at the sound of his voice. Seeing Naruto's darkly clad form drop to the floor behind her, she tore the battle fan off the wall and swung it at him, shouting, Kamataichi no Jutsu. Oh, shit. Naruto quickly unsheathed his sword and, in the split second, cast his own jutsu. With a downward stroke, he cast a Kase no Yaiba. His attack split hers, making the jutsu pass by him and hit the walls behind, creating huge gouges as the wind blew pictures and hanging scrolls off the wall. Naruto smiled at her. You know, I'm still waiting on a reply. Shocked at the dismissal of one of her most powerful techniques, she answered him. Sabaku no Tamari. Ah, beautiful name. Now, he broke off as he sheathed his sword and disappeared, reappearing behind her with both hands behind her back and her mouth covered by his hand. Now, would you be so kind as to tell me where you keep your jewelry? To Temari's credit, she didn't even glance at her hiding spot. Unfortunately, when messing with someone who is almost telepathic, it pays to not think about things this important. But she did not know, so she thought about the location, which Naruto sensed through the force. Well, now that you've told me, I think it's time you took a nap, said Naruto as he kept Tamari from struggling free. She actually put up a good fight, though Naruto had more muscle than she. Naruto touched the force again, this time using it to influence Tamari, making her fall right to sleep. She slumped in Naruto's arms as he smiled. Well, we know that one worked. He carried her back to her bed and set her down gently. Turning back to the wall, he waved his hand, invoking the force to open the secret compartment hidden there. A 3 by 2 foot opening appeared, her jewelry glittering faintly within. Just the rubies, nothing else, he reminded himself, reaching into the compartment. He sifted through the golden necklaces and other types of jewelry that winked at him in the light. Spying a red flash, he reached and lifted out the target necklace. He smiled as he placed on another one of his storage seals tattooed on his arm. I gotta hand it to Kyuubi, these seals are great. I'm glad he taught me them. With his mission completed, he jumped through the window. and ran into Kyuubi, who was still running from the Suna guards. Hi. Run, you moron. Jay that force using ass and gear. Both Kyuubi and Naruto began running, Naruto using the force to speed up both of them. Then an idea popped into his head. Naruto quickly tapped into the Suna nin's minds and implanted an illusion of the pair running down the street. He grabbed Kyuubi and pulled him into a side alley, allowing the force-addled guards to run past. Very good, Naruto, said Kyuubi, slightly out of breath from his jog around the city. Thanks. See any good sights on your run? Nah, ya see one sand dune, ya seen 'em all. Though, there was this one whorehouse. Let's not get into this again, said Naruto, pulling his cloak lower over his face as he walked down the alley, heading for the gate. Kyuubi quickly followed him, complaining. Oh, come on, I've been stuck in you for 14 years. 14 years without any pleasurable company. Just 1 hour. Shut up. Oh, come on, said Kyuubi, cutting off as Naruto dismissed the bunchin he was currently possessing. Finally, some peace and quiet. That's what you think. The guards at the gate watched Naruto pass by, acting as if he was talking to himself. The two guards look at each other before going back to their duties. No one wanted to mess with a boy that talked to himself, especially in past experiences with Sabaku no Gaara. 15 minutes later at an oasis approximately 30 miles due south of Sanagakure. Okay, here goes, thought Naruto as he placed one of the rubies he had pulled off the necklace in the metal cylinder that would soon be his very first lightsaber. The ruby was a near-perfect sphere, shining bloody red in the baking sun. Naruto placed the gem in its respective slot, then put the cylinder back together. The only thing left was to activate the saber. You think it will work? You think it won't? Good point. Here goes nothing. Kami, please don't let this thing blow up in my face. With that thought still echoing in his head, he pressed the activation switch. With a snap hiss, a brilliant crimson blade of light sprang from the cylinder, emitting a humming sound as it moved through the air. Naruto held his hand close to the blade. It did not emit heat, as the instruction scroll had said. It seems to be working. Naruto spied a large rock by the lake in the middle of the desert. He walked over to it and took an experimental swing, burning a glowing fissure through the rock. Splendid, your first lightsaber is complete, and you have more than enough rubies to build at least a dozen other sabers. Yeah, but I don't want a pair of red sabers, I want a black saber and a red one. That's why we need to head to Kumo. Naruto looked out at the setting sun, watching it slowly sink below the curvature of the earth. Well, tomorrow's another day. He looked back at his glowing saber. And it's looking better already, he said as he snapped off his saber as the sun set behind it. What do you mean, you sense something? Asked Naruto, coming to a stop in his journey towards Kumo. I sense something. A place of power, directly behind us. We should take a look. It could help us in some way, maybe. Said Kyuubi. It's in the wrong direction. Here, I got an idea. It'll make a clone, you take over and head towards the place of power you sense. If you find anything like scrolls or something, create more clones and have them learn. Then dispel once you're finished. Deal. Naruto created a clone and watched as Kyuubi took over, changing the features of the doppelganger. If I find that you've massacred a village or something, your next 5 years are gonna be in constant agony. Okay. Scratch massacring a village off my checklist, said Kyuubi, producing a notebook and a pen out of nowhere and scratching off the first item off the list. Naruto glared at Kyuubi before turning away and starting toward Kumo. After a few steps Naruto spun around again. And no visiting any brothels. Oh, come on. Naruto shook his head and continued on his way, disappearing in a blur, causing a wave of sand to fly through the air in his wake. Back in Suna, where the hell is that bastard? Shouted a rather irate fan mistress. Kankuro barely glanced up at his sister's outburst, preferring to stay away from her and whomever she wanted to find. Gaara was, well, being Gaara. Kyuubi looked towards the village as he passed. If that girl goes to Konoha for Chunin exams and recognizes him, he's dead. Back with Naruto, the terrain had changed a few times, from desert to trees and then trees to mountains. I'm getting close, thought Naruto as he climbed, usually jumping from ledge to ledge but clambering under others when jumping was not an option. Kumogakure no Sato. The village hidden in the clouds. Well, if I keep climbing I'll hit the clouds real soon. Naruto jumped from one ledge, using the force to send him to the next rock projection, bursting through a cloud as he did so. A very surprised Kumo nin stood on an outcropping, staring at the black cloaked form flying through the air in his direction, as if on black wings. His hand flew to his throat, reaching for the alarm whistle he carried. Before the whistle touched his lips, Naruto landed and threw a quick punch, sinking his fist into the Kumo nin's solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs. As the ninja doubled over, Naruto straightened and hit him on the neck, just below the base of the skull. The Kumo nin dropped to the ground, knocked unconscious. Note to self. Thank Kyuubi for teaching me knockout points. Endnote, thought Naruto, dragging the Kumo nin's limp body under an outcropping. Naruto looked at city, once hidden by the clouds, now revealed in its glory. Well, this city hidden in the clouds seems to be just that. Naruto paused for a moment, stretching out with the force, sensing the patrols walking about. Definitely harder than Suna. Perhaps a distraction is in order. Naruto created 4 clones and had them henge into random ninja, all their headbands displaying the cloud of Kumo. Scatter. Cause as much chaos as you can. Do no display any force abilities without disguising them first. Run as fast as possible, said Naruto, looking at the clones circled around them. The clones nodded. Go. The 4 clones scattered, all accessing the force and speeding away. Naruto sat down on the rock and meditated. Within a few moments, explosions were heard, along with screaming, alarm whistles, and shouts. Well, at least the training is paying off, thought Naruto as he rose from his cross-legged position. Naruto crept up the mountainside, heading for the second tallest of the many towers. There, he assumed, were the shinobi ruler's quarters. There was his target, black opals needed for his black lightsaber. He appeared from the mouth of an alley, merging with the crowd running in all directions. He followed the panicked crowd for a ways before breaking off and walking the rest of the way through the empty streets on towards the towers. He climbed through a window on the 2nd floor, using the force to cause a distraction, causing the guards to look the other way for the split second he needed to enter. Naruto smiled as the memories of a dispelled clone entered his head. The clone had painted 4 explosive seals onto walls and set them to detonate upon his death, before using a Kaiden jutsu on the marketplace, creating a distraction for the original. When the Kumo nin had appeared on the scene, the clone fought well, but refrained from using force powers for some reason. His swordsmanship was masterful, but a slight overlunge had a kunai in his heart. He smiled at his killer as the seals he had drawn pulsed and exploded, sending debris and shrapnel flying, causing more chaos and destruction. Note to self. Explosive seals seem a little weak. Try to up the explosive force in the future. Endnote, thought Naruto as he crept along a hallway, searching rooms as he came upon them. He would enter and stand in the center of the room and touch the force. The room was nearly ripped to pieces as Naruto used the force to pull everything into the air, identifying every piece of furniture or jewelry as it drifted past his head. Finding nothing, he released his hold and let the debris fall, before moving on to the next room. He finally came upon a room with a large vault door, solid steel by the sound it made as he knocked upon it. He stepped back far enough before touching the force once again, tearing the vault door of its hinges. It fell to the floor with a resounding thud, echoing throughout the tower. Something tells me I should have used a sound suppression seal on that before I pulled it down, thought Naruto as he entered the room. Mountains of treasure winked at him, jewels and gold in piles in chests and on the floor. Jackpot! Naruto reached out and pulled a pair of black opals from a pile. The black stones shone in the light, reflecting Naruto's face in their depths. Well, that's done. Naruto's smile fell as the other 3 clones' memories entered his mind. Apparently, a ninja with blonde hair and cat's eyes had destroyed his clones with flames. They also said she had huge chakra reserves, not as much as him, but still enough to be higher than the surrounding Jonin. Well, what do you know, maybe someone who can fight me, thought Naruto as he stepped out of the vault and walked towards the exit. He had made it 3 steps before the wall exploded, flames mixing with the debris. Naruto quickly threw up a force shield, sending the debris and flames past him without receiving a scratch. He used the force to push away the smoke, revealing the ninja who had attacked him. A blonde kunoichi appeared out of the receding smoke. She had black pants, a white shirt with black shoulders, a purple sash, and bandages around her arms from elbow to wrists with purple fingerless gloves. Beneath her Kumo Hite 8, piercing green cat eyes watched Naruto as he drew his sword. "Whom do I have the honor of fighting this day?" asked Naruto, settling into his Gemso stance, his favorite form. "I am Ni Yugito. Tell the Shinigami that I sent you," said Yugito as she blurred forward, drawing a pair of kunai as she attacked. Naruto used his sword to intercept the blow, locking blades with her before delivering a solid punch to her stomach and casually pushing her backwards, throwing her 12 feet away. He smiled as settled into his stance once again. "Please tell me that's not all you can do," he said, taking on hand off the hilt, making a beckoning motion. "You're gonna wish you didn't say that," said Yugito, flashing through hand seals before breathing a stream of fire at him, catching him by surprise. "A Kumo nin that uses Kaiden Jutsu? This is Kaminari no Kuni, right?" Regardless of what Naruto thought, his body reacted immediately, accessing the force and cartwheeling to safety. Yugito ceased her stream of fire, watching Naruto flip out of the way. He smiled at her. "Nice Kaiden Jutsu. Pity it's not faster." Yugito smiled sweetly herself, watching trails of smoke appear behind Naruto. "Your cloak is on fire." Naruto looked over his shoulder to see flames licking at the edge of his cloak. "Ya gotta be kidding me," thought Naruto as he shed his cloak, revealing his gray pants and hooded sleeveless shirt. At his belt was his lightsaber, gleaming dully in the firelight from his burning cloak. "Do you know how long I have had that cloak?" asked Naruto in mock outrage, watching his cloak turn to ashes. "My father gave that cloak." Yugito frowned at Naruto's expression, feeling remorse for her accidental flaming of a family gift. "I'm really sorry, your father gave you that cloak?" she asked, almost teary-eyed. "Nope," said the suddenly cheerful-looking Naruto before blurring out of sight, blade thrumming through the air. Naruto aimed 27 precise cuts at Yugito, though, due to his speed, she never noticed. "What is he cutting?" "Here's a hint. I was watching the movie The Mask of Zorro." Yugito looked around wildly, trying to locate her suddenly elusive prey. "Where are you?" she called out. "You all know where he is, right?" "Behind you," whispered Naruto, leaning over Yugito's shoulder. She froze for an instant, which Naruto took advantage of as he slapped a chakra lock seal and a physical restriction seal on her arm. Yugito collapsed, unable to stand or manipulate chakra, totally disabled. She glared up at him as he replaced his sword. "I'm sorry I had to end our little date earlier than either of us had hoped. I sense a large number of Kumo nen heading in this direction," said Naruto glancing out the shattered wall. "Not that I can't defeat them, I just don't have the time to mop the floor with every ninja Kumo has." He smiled as looked back down at her. He crouched down and cupped her face. "Until we meet again, Yugito-chan," he said, walking towards the hole. "Oh, before I forget," said Naruto, turning sharply on his heel. "Nice rack." With that he back-flipped through the wall. Yugito looked down to find her shirt in tatters. "Damn that son of a bitch straight to hell," thought Yugito as she watched him disappear, fury written across her face. Somewhere in Hai no Kuni, a certain white-haired pervert was resting against a tree, scribbling away in a notepad. Suddenly, he sat upright, a strange feeling raising the hair on the back of his neck. My pervert sense is tingling. Back with Naruto. Naruto ran, jumping off the ledges and taking flying dives into deep chasms on the way down, easily outrunning any Kumo nin foolish enough to try and follow his suicidal to anyone but a force user path. One actually got close but had the misfortune to get close enough to warrant Naruto's reaction. Thus, he ended being thrown into a wall with the force. His pursuers quickly fell back after that. He finally made it back to the border between Hai and K's when he felt Kyuubi join him in his mind. "Hello, Kyuubi, it was getting lonely here in my mind." "Sure, you and your multiple personalities were feeling mighty depressed without me in here." "Oh, good, the cobwebs are still here," said Kyuubi as he stretched within Naruto's mind. "I assume you got the opals?" "Of course I did," thought Naruto, patting the arm seal as he continued to Kyuubi's last location. "Well, I don't know how to say this," said Kyuubi, seeming almost sheepish as he spoke. "But, the cave I visited had a whole bunch of scrolls. In a back room there are chests, filled with jewels, including black opals and rubies. Naruto had stopped running at the mention of jewels. Please tell me I heard you wrong. You're saying that I spent a whole lot of time and energy and nearly got killed by the entire shinobi forces of Kumo for no reason? Kyuubi grinned sheepishly. That sounds about right. Back in Konoha, Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage, the professor, said to know all Konoha jutsu was facing the most hated enemy of all. Paperwork. As he pulled another sheet of paper towards him, a shout rang out. Son of a bitch. Sarutobi just shrugged. With Naruto gone, the only reason that someone would yell like that would be Anko and Ibiki working on another intruder. That comment was usually followed by a, please not there, and more yells of agony. Back with Naruto, you calm down yet? Do I look calm? No, just thought I'd ask. Naruto had unleashed a veritable lightning storm in anger, turning parts of the sand dunes all around him into glass. He began walking again, glass crunching underfoot, sand blowing in the wind. Naruto created and dispelled a clone, using that clone to broadcast an order to the others. Simple orders. Dispel if you've been reading, replace all equipment, and 5 of them go hunting for food. The others would work on force powers or the 6 forms he knew. Those practicing force powers would have their swords taken by another to practice Jarkai, the one form he still needed work on. Okay, physical training time. Use some senbon and start balancing on one while doing one-handed inverted push-ups. I'll go ahead and get those tools ready for you when you get back to base. Home, sweet desert, thought Naruto as he jabbed a senbon into the ground and began his workout. 1, 2, 3. 3 down and 4,997 to go. Then the next arm, 3.5 months later. Okay, let's review. Force powers. Lightning, telekinesis, telepathy, healing, absorb, drain, protection, speed, strength, and jump as well as body manipulation. Styles. Makashi, Sorasu, Ataru, Shin, Gemso, Neiman, Vaipad, Jarkai, Dunmok, Sairento Kiringu, Taekwondo, Hapkido, Ninjutsu, and Silat. Weapons. Zatoichi sword, Kunai, Senbon, Shuriken, whisper knives, lightsabers, and your custom Shoto lightsabers. We missing anything? Asked Kyuubi, looking back at Naruto. Naruto closed the cave entrance, using the force to move a boulder in front of the cave's mouth before creating a windstorm to cover the area with sand. Yeah, we're good, said Naruto, turning back to Kyuubi. Naruto had changed his wardrobe over the 3.5 months he had been in the desert. His clothes were no longer the black hooded sleeveless shirt and pants he had worn since he had left Konoha. He now wore a loose, sand-colored cloak that reached down to his knees. He wore a black muscle shirt underneath the cloak. At his waist was a ragged belt of a dark tan, some pieces torn into strips that hung by his legs. His hands were wrapped in bandages from mid-forearm to the knuckles. Beads on thin pieces of leather hung from his cloak, as well as on a circlet around his right wrist. His pants were a dark shade of gray, worn bandages wrapped around the loose ends, securing them to a pair of homemade worn leather boots. His hair was the same color as his cloak, being bleached by the sun during his constant workouts underneath the unforgiving sun. He also now sported a deep tan, contrasting his sun-bleached hair. His eyes were still cerulean blue, but his pupils had changed to the slits that Kyuubi had. The change of his eyes had resulted from training with the Kyuubi's chakra. As he became more accustomed to it, he could draw on more, though drawing on too much before he was ready was still harmful to his body. Think of it as putting 5 volts through an LED rated at 1.5 volts. You burn out the LED unless you use the correct amount of power. His lightsabers were stored in different storage seals, located in many places around his body. His black and red pair was in seals located at the elbows of both arms, within reach if he chose to cross his arms, giving him the element of surprise if he were to suddenly whip out the sabers to engage the enemy. He had found others when he entered the cave. Many styles of blade and handles were stored in the cave as well as many different colors as well, red, blue, green, some yellow and even a purple. Naruto had taken them all and stored them in seals. If he lost his black or red, he now had extras. Fat chance of me losing those. Those are my most prized possessions thus far. Well, now that the cave has been sealed, can we get moving? That genin exam is in 3 weeks. We have a long way to travel before we get back to Konoha, stated Kyubi, shrugging as he went through a Soresu pattern as he waited. His favorite form was Shin, but Soresu was good if you wanted to calm down and wait things out. Yeah, I know. I'm done paying respects to the masters who made this place. We should get moving, said Naruto, pulling on a pair of goggles and wrapping a sandy-colored cloth around his face to avoid sand and grit from the sandstorm he saw forming in the distance. Figures, my path leads me right into the worst of nature's tests. Right, said Kyubi, covering his face in the same manner and replacing his sword. Naruto grabbed his sword and wrapped the handle with another piece of cloth. The covering would keep any sand from entering the sheath. Naruto took care of his gear as well as he took care of himself. If the gear fails, I die, he thought, making sure the covering was secure before storing the sword on his back. Kyubi and Naruto began to walk, entering the sandstorm. They kept in touch with each other through the force as to not get separated as well as to keep a straight path through the storm. Next time, we go around, thought Naruto as sand bounced off his lenses. Hey, I told you we should have gone around, thought Kyubi, 3 feet to Naruto's left, struggling through the sandstorm. Yeah, but I haven't been home for almost a year. I want to surprise GG and get readmitted. I know. They continued in silence for hours, finally breaking through the sandstorm and entering Hai no Kuni country's borders. The trees were a familiar sight to Naruto, who grinned as they walked through the forest. When they were about 3 hours away from Konoha, the both came to a sudden stop, both sensing something wrong. I sense Kumo Nen. Why are they on Konoha turf? Aren't we on allied terms with them? Asked Kyubi, turning northeast towards the feeling of wrongness. Naruto turned as well, eyes closed in concentration as he used the force to see what was going on in the forest ahead of them. Naruto's eyes flashed open, anger clearly written across his face. They have a Konoha prisoner, he said, disappearing as he ran towards the group of Kumo Nen. Kyubi had sensed what Naruto saw and kept pace with him as they approached. Okay, here's the plan. We use Kirigakure no Jutsu to disorient them before killing off 2 of the 3 with Sirento Kiringu. Once they're dead, you back off and I'll approach the last one. "'Kay?" asked Naruto, as he drifted left, circling the Kumo Nen. "Sounds good. Why can't we just kill them all?" asked Kyubi as he drifted off in the opposite direction. The Kumo kidnappers were taking a break, apparently out of breath about 10 kilometers from Konoha. These guys seem really weak. We're only 10k from Konoha and they're taking a break? What the hell? Thought Kyubi, halting 30 feet behind a Kumo nin who had the misfortune of sitting out in the open. In between the triangle of ninja was a pale-eyed girl, wearing black pants and a bulky coat. She lay against a tree, unconscious, arms and legs bound by rope as well her hands, probably to avoid jutsu use. "I have eyes on the prisoner, Naruto, don't you know her?" Naruto used the force to see through Kyubi's eyes. He froze as he recognized the unwilling companion of the Kumo nin. "That's Hyuga, Hinata. She was in my class at the academy. Why do they want her?" The pieces of the puzzle suddenly clicked. They want her for her clan's Kekkei Genkei, the Byakugan. I heard that Kumogakure still wants the Hyuga's dojutsu. Well, you know what it means if they get out of here with her. She will be subjected to rape and forced to produce babies with the Byakugan. Children loyal to Kumo. What a way to leave a crush behind. "Hey, I do not have a crush on her." "Your dreams say different," said Kyubi, sending Naruto the image of his smiling face. "She's next to royalty in Konoha and I'm the demon brat. How would it ever work? We'll talk about that later. Rescue first, discuss future girlfriend later." Good idea, thought Naruto, quickly channeling a large amount of chakra into his jutsu. "Kirigakure no jutsu," he whispered. "Okay, Q ninja becoming alert," thought Kyubi as the mist began to blanket the area. The Kumo nin all drew weapons, ready for whatever lay within the mist. Unfortunately for 2 of them, they are no match for a Jinchuriki and a few 100,000-years-old demon. Naruto crept behind one, drawing a whisper knife to slit the Kumo nin's throat. He grabbed the ninja, pulled him backwards by his head into a near bridge position and slashed through the ninja's throat, blood spurting from the severed jugular veins. Kyubi did the same thing, though his was a bit different. He extended a clawed finger and slit the ninja's throat with his bare hand. Both ninjas were lowered to the ground by their killers, who had not one drop of blood on them. Kyuubi retreated into the cover of the trees while Naruto went to stand in front of the other ninja, who was frantically trying to see through the mist surrounding him. Naruto released the Kirigakure no Jutsu, allowing the mist to disperse. He implanted an illusion in the ninja's head through the force, making him think that Naruto had formed out of the mist. Naruto smiled beneath his scarf, sensing the growing fear within the ninja, mentally praising the ninja's ability not to piss his pants. "You have a friend of mine there. You would do well to get back to your own country," said Naruto, casually crossing his arms, laying a hand over the seals hidden by the sleeves of his jacket. "If you leave now, I promise you that I will not kill you." "Who are you?" asked the Kumo nin, still wielding his sword in an aggressive manner. Who is but the form following the function of what I am is a man in a mask. And, if you choose not to cooperate, said Naruto, glaring at the ninja. He chuckled for a moment, further instilling fear into the ninja before speaking again. "If you not to cooperate, I will be your executioner. Any questions?" The Kumo nin began to shake, barely suppressing the urge to flee. Yes. I have a question," said Kyuubi, raising his hand as if in the academy as he walked into the small space between the trees. He stopped just to the left of Naruto, grinning his quite unnerving fanged grin at the Kumo nin. "What is it?" asked Naruto, looking sideways at the demon fox. "Why do you get to kill him?" "Because I am the leader of this outfit, not you. Therefore, I receive the right to kill him," said Naruto, turning to face Kyuubi. "If you two are done arguing, back off," shouted the Kumo nin, holding his blade against Hinata's throat. The ninja's eyes were wild, driven by fear into threatening the very person that he had to deliver back to Kumo. "Nice, Kyuubi. You distracted me. Now, Kumo boy over there has Hinata hostage," said Naruto, turning back to the Kumo nin. Kyuubi leaned forward into a predator's crouch. "Give me the word and I'll go for his throat. Didn't you hear me? Back the fuck off before I slit her throat," shouted the Kumo nin, beginning to panic slightly. A snap hiss was heard before a black shaft of light burst out of the Kumo nin's chest. Kyuubi watched as the Naruto beside him disappeared and the original deactivated his saber, letting the Kumo nin drop gracelessly to the forest floor. Smoke rising from the airway passage burnt through his body. Well, that was fun. Naruto looked down, staring at Hinata. Her eyes had opened while the Kumo nin had her by the throat, allowing her to see her two rescuers. Naruto crouched down, using a whisper knife to slice through the ropes binding her. "My name is Uzumaki Naruto. You were in my class at the academy before I left to do some training on my own. Sorry I had to kill that ninja in front of you, but it was unavoidable." Hinata's heart skipped a beat. Her long-lost crush, coming back to his home village in the nick of time to save her from the clutches of a band of Kumo nin. "Can you walk?" asked Naruto, replacing his knife and discarding the rope. Hinata shook her head. The amount of time tied up had cut off circulation to her legs and arms. She was pretty much unable to move. "Okay then," said Naruto, lifting Hinata bridal style. Hinata squeaked as she was lifted, latching onto Naruto's arms. "Come on, Kyuubi, stop going through the dead guy's pockets." Kyuubi glanced up guiltily as he pulled money and pieces of paper from the ninja's pockets. One paper in particular caught his eye. "Look, this paper is the mission parameters for Hinata, it's signed by the Raikage himself." No surprises there, thought Naruto, glancing down at Hinata. He used the force to put her to sleep, allowing her to rest as he and Kyuubi walked back to Konoha. Naruto strode through the forest, weaving between the trees, taking care not to disturb Hinata, who had fallen asleep. I guess this experience was a little too much for her, thought Naruto, looking down at her. Hinata had curled in his arms, burrowing into his chest as she slept. She seemed perfectly at peace. "See? I told you. You like her," thought Kyuubi in a sing-song voice, walking beside him. He was smiling so hard Naruto thought he might get his face stuck like that. "Since you rescued her, you might have a chance. I don't want her to feel compelled to like me. I want her to have the choice," thought Naruto, taking a second to glance down at the fallen angel in his arms. Her dark blue hair shined in the patches of broken sunlight, framing her beautiful face, and her skin reminded him of the purest snow. Naruto searched his memories and came up with one conclusion. He had never seen something so beautiful in his life. "Maybe I do love her. Once again. I told you so. Do not make me shock you again." "Okay, Okay, simmer down, thought Kyuubi, jumping over a raised tree root, then rebounded to stand in front of Naruto. Hold still for a moment, he said in his mind, reaching over to place his hand on Hinata's forehead. What are you doing? Making her think that this was just a dream and thrusting her into a deeper sleep. Now we can move faster. We'll reach Konoha, bring her back to her family, and join the academy. Why didn't you teach me to modify memories? Thought Naruto in outrage, glaring over Hinata's head at Kyuubi. Kyuubi shrugged. There really wasn't much of a reason to before now, don't you think? Naruto rolled his eyes before beginning to run. Kyuubi kept pace, preferring to bounce off anything in sight. Trees, rocks, and even a river became rebound points for the Kyuubi's black-haired blur. Race you! Shouted Naruto through his mind, upping his speed to the point his feet only touched the ground for a millisecond. Kyuubi responded in kind, becoming a blur parallel to Naruto. The gates of Konoha. Izumo and Kotetsu were at the gates, sitting in their booth playing a game of solitaire. Things were slow at the gate. Why did we sign up for this again? Asked Izumo, placing a 10 on a jack. This is the most boring job there is. Because it's the easiest job there is, said Kotetsu in a sage-like voice, before moving a 9 through 6 pile of cards to the 10. Izumo nodded while flipping cards, searching for one he could use. A dust cloud was forming over the road, the result of pounding feet. Kotetsu nudged Izumo and pointed at the approaching cloud. Someone's coming. Naruto and Kyuubi raced through the gate, coming to a screeching stop. I won, shouted Kyuubi, launching into a victory dance. Izumo and Kotetsu raised their heads from behind the desk, looking at the two intruders. Hey, isn't that Hyuga Hinata? Asked Izumo, glancing at Kotetsu for confirmation. At his nod, both of them burst out of the booth and confronted the strangers, kunai unsheathed and ready for battle. Halt! State your purpose for being here, yelled Izumo, pointing a kunai at the duo in a threatening manner. Naruto and Kyuubi, having finished his victory dance, turned towards the pair. Hey Kyuubi, you want to dispel now? Don't want to have to deal with this now. Sure thing, thought Kyuubi, disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Naruto turned back to the Chunin pair. You never saw me, he said, using the force to influence their minds. You want to return to the booth and continue your game. Izumo and Kotetsu turned on their heels and turned around, walking back to the booth and resumed their game. Okay, thought Naruto as he carried Hinata through the streets. Step 1. Get back into Konoha. Check. Step 2. Go talk to Gigi. Pending. As he walked towards the Hokage Tower, he stretched out with the force and entered the minds of the villagers in his path, shielding himself by enshrouding Hinata and himself in a force illusion. Things might not go too well if the village demon was seen carrying the Hyuga heiress. Let's get to the tower. Fine. Naruto finally reached the tower and walked to the Hokage's office, following the familiar hallway to the familiar desk and the same bitchy secretary that guarded the office like a hawk. Couldn't he have found a new one by now? With a flourish of his cloak, he appeared before the secretary, creating a wave of air that scattered the papers stacked all over the desk. She looked up in anger to see a masked and cloaked almost white-haired ninja, who appeared as if he would have been more at home in the dunes of Kase no Kuni, carrying the Hyuga heiress bridal style. Who are you? She asked angrily, frantically trying to grab every paper she could before one of them fell onto the floor. I am surprised that you forget me so easily, Obachan, drawled Naruto, reiterating the insult he had hurled at her every time he entered the room on the way to show the Hokage something he had learned at the academy. The secretary reacted in horror, pushing herself as far from the desk as she could. She, along with much of the population, were told that the Kyuubi had left the village and had gotten himself killed somewhere in Kaminari no Kuni. Just so you know, I'm not dead, said Naruto, pulling down on the mask, revealing his almost feral grin. Also, I have someone that wants to meet you. Channeling some chakra, Naruto created a clone, smiling wider as her eyes widened as he performed a kinjutsu with no hand seals. The clone then changed into the Kyuubi, his grin even more bestial and feral than Naruto's. You can't call him a demon, said Kyuubi as he walked forward, his claws growing longer and sharper. With a single blow, he slashed the desk into pieces, destroying the only obstacle between him and the target of his anger. Because I am. Naruto replaced his mask before walking past the carnage to the door to the Hokage's office. You have 3 minutes, Kyubi, he called over his shoulder as he let himself in, resuming the illusion. The door closed as the screams began. Sarutobi Hiruzen was at his desk, wishing that he could retire and get back to his calligraphy and his Icha-Icha books. He reached for another piece of paperwork, already tired of the ever-growing amount even this early in the morning. "GG," whispered Naruto, casting his voice to sound behind his grandfather figure, enjoying the ability to make him jump. Sarutobi had spun around, kunai at the ready, searching the office for the intruder. Anbu. 4 Anbu appeared in the room. Naruto had sensed 5 signatures in the force as he entered, so he had resumed the force illusion. With the illusion clouding the ninjas' minds, he walked over to the couch by the wall, placed Hinata on it, and then walked between them to stand in the center of the room. Yo! The 4 Anbu and Hiruzen spun around to face the suddenly visible threat. Why is Asuna Nin here? They aren't supposed to be here for a couple of months. I'm not Asuna Nin, GG. You remember me, don't you? Said Naruto, pulling down his face mask. 5 sharp intakes of breath were heard before Hiruzen walked over and hugged Naruto. We thought you were dead. Naruto looked around the Hokage to see the 4 Anbu still standing there. Shoo, he said, waving his hand in a dismissive manner. He could practically feel the anger from beneath their masks. If looks could kill. Hiruzen turned back to the Anbu and ordered them away. He then gestured to Naruto and told him to sit. Where did you go? What did you do? What did you learn? Where's the money for the stuff you stole? In order. Konoha, Suna, and Kumo. Learned how to control my powers. Lots of new jutsu, sword forms and knife fighting. And the money is right here, said Naruto, placing a small bag on the Hokage's desk with a multitude of clinks. Why did you go to Kumo? They had something I needed. It would have taken me longer if I had gone through other sources, so I took the path of least resistance, said Naruto, shrugging. You broke into, stole something from, and escaped the most military-focused hidden village in the elemental countries? Yeah, pretty much. Hiruzen held his head in his hands for a moment. He is going to force me into an early grave, he thought, rubbing his temples. No, I won't, said Naruto, leaning back in his chair. When the Hokage looked up in confusion, Naruto smiled again. I'm slightly telepathic. Some people I can hear their thoughts, others I can only get emotion. What else can you do? Asked Hiruzen, silently dreading the answer. Something told him that what was coming was going to give a large amount of paperwork. I can make things move without touching them. I can jump higher and move faster than any ninja I've met. See the future in small glimpses, and I can influence someone to do my bidding, said Naruto, listing the abilities on his fingers. And yeah, this will give you a large amount of paperwork. As Hiruzen jerked, hearing the voice in his head, Naruto chuckled. I told you I was telepathic. Okay, this is a lot to take in, said Hiruzen, supporting his head in his hands once again. The door to his office started to open. Amy, not now, I'm busy. Kyubi entered the office, smiling. Oh, it feels great after some mental torture in the morning. Ah, Hokage-sama, a pleasure to meet you again. It's been 15 years, don't you think? The elderly Hokage's face went from confused to horrified as he worked out the implications of the greeting. Naruto, is this who I think it is? Yep, GG, meet Kyubi no Kitsune. Wump, I think you overdid it. Shut up. After a few minutes, Hiruzen came back from the land of blissful unconsciousness. 2 faces greeted him, one with blue eyes and the other with yellow eyes. Okay, before you faint again, we have something to tell you. Kyubi here has not escaped, he is merely controlling a shadow clone. He has as much chakra as I put into the clone. He can't escape and reap havoc, said Naruto, trying to calm the Hokage's fears. Well, I can use the same powers as you, so havoc is a possibility, said Kyubi, producing a file from nowhere and began sharpening his claws. Thanks, Kyubi. Don't mention it. Is there anything else that you want to tell me? Asked Hiruzen. His senses told him that there was, and usually his senses were never wrong. Yeah, actually, there is one more thing, said Naruto, pointing to the seemingly empty couch by the wall. At the Hokage's puzzled glance, Naruto twisted his hand and raised it in the air. The illusion hiding Hinata dissolved. Using the force, Naruto carried her over to where he was sitting before setting her down in his arms. Why is Hyuga Hinata here? Asked the elderly Hokage, feeling a headache coming on. Kyubi chose this moment to speak up. Blondie's girlfriend is here because 3 Kumo nin were trying to kidnap her before we ambushed them in the forest. That statement earned him a glare from Naruto and gasp from Hiruzen. Kyuubi smiled as he pulled the order from his pocket. Here's the order, signed by the Raikage himself. As the Hokage took the form, Kyuubi spoke again. You'd think that the crack team they sent would have the brains to destroy their order after they memorized it. This form proves the Raikage's involvement. Arigato, Naruto, Kyuubi. No problem, we needed to kill him anyways, said Kyuubi, still sharpening his claws. He paused before asking, we're gonna get paid, right? Well, yes, I suppose so. You did rescue Hinata at risk of your own lives, so I think an S-rank payout would be fair, said Hiruzen, filing the order form and producing a payment form. After a few moments, the Sandaime handed Naruto a voucher for payment down on the 3rd floor. What are we to do with Hinata here? Asked Kyuubi, gesturing towards Hinata who had, once again, snuggled into Naruto's chest. Hiruzen smiled at the sight. They do look good together. I know we do, said Naruto, shifting a little in his seat. If I wasn't the village demon, I might have had a chance. Well, you do. Your parents were pretty high up in Konoha society, Kyuubi said, walking over to sit on the Hokage's desk. Isn't that right, Sarutobi Hiruzen? Well, yes, they were. The Hokage got up and looked out the window, remembering the events of 15 years ago. Your mother left this world while brining you into it. She was known throughout the elemental nations as a skilled fighter. Her name was Uzumaki Kushina. Wait, Uzumaki is my mother's clan name? Then what's my father's name? Asked Naruto, growing more confused. Your father was an amazing ninja. He single-handedly won us the 3rd Great Shinobi World War against Iwa and Kusa. He was our greatest Hokage, Namikaze Minato. Nicknamed the Konoha no Kiroi Senko, due to his Hiraishin no Jutsu. He sealed the Kyuubi into you, using you to keep the demon at bay. Hey, that demon has a name, shouted Kyuubi. No one cares, Kyuubi, said Naruto, looking down at Hinata to make sure she wasn't disturbed by Kyuubi's shout. She shifted slightly before settling down, sighing in her sleep. So, my father was the greatest Hokage in the history of Konoha? Asked Naruto, looking at both Kyuubi and Hiruzen in turn. At their nods, Naruto said, and no one ever told me? Easy, Naruto, said Kyuubi, holding up a hand as if he were going to ward off Naruto with it. Naruto's anger had begun to make things move around in the office. A vase was crushed, papers blown through the air, and furniture overturned. Sandaime here was told by your father to keep your lineage a secret, since your father was hated by pretty much all of Iwa. He didn't want assassins trying to do you in every day of your life, said Kyuubi, turning to Hiruzen. Though it didn't work out too well, did it? Instead of assassins from Iwa or other ninja villages, we got assassins from our own village. Do you know how many times he almost died? How many times he was lucky I was able to send chakra into his system for him to regenerate? How many times your precious Anbu turned away when they should have protected him? Do you? Kyuubi roared, his claws and fangs lengthening as his rage grew. Hiruzen backed away from the demonic shadow clone. The 4 Anbu returned, setting themselves between the Hokage and danger. You're lucky that Naruto considers you and that Inu Anbu a friend, or I would have killed you as soon as I got here. Kyuubi. Enough, said Naruto. GG, send for Hiashi please. I suspect he will want to know that his daughter is safe. And summon Inu as well. He might be interested in his friend's return, growled Kyuubi, working himself back from the breaking point. Tora, tell Hiashi that he is needed in my office. Suru, go find Inu. Tell him if he's late I'll tear a page from his book. 2 of the Anbu disappeared, shunshing away in a burst of smoke. Naruto looked at the others before waving a hand and commanding them to leave. Hiruzen's jaw dropped as the Anbu did as they were told, disappearing back to whatever place they came from. Kyuubi was nearly choking as he tried to suppress a laugh, almost sticking his fist into his mouth to try and stop the noise. They were waiting for a few minutes before the silence was broken by the entrance of Hyuga Hiashi. Hokage-sama, my daughter has been kidnapped again and you chose now of all times to summon me? We should be organizing a rescue missy. He cut off as the Hokage pointed behind him to where Naruto was, still cradling the sleeping Hinata in his arms. Your daughter is safe, Hiashi, said Hiruzen before gesturing to Kyuubi and Naruto. Naruto and Kyuubi here saved her from Kumo agents. The Hyuga clan head stared for a moment at the mention of the Kyuubi. What do you mean, Naruto and Kyuubi? Well, I'm kinda controlling a shadow clone, though it has been fortified with extra chakra, said Kyuubi, stretching his back. The movement was accompanied by sickening pops, which made Hiyashi flinch. Uzumaki-san can dismiss you if needed, correct? Yep, answered Kyuubi, resuming the filing of his claws. Hiyashi breathed a sigh of relief, before turning back to Naruto. Why is my daughter on your lap? Whoa, hold on, said Naruto, seeing the fatherly rage within his eyes. This is not what it looks like. She's just sleeping. She had a very trying day, don't you think? Well, yes, ahem. My apologies, said Hiyashi. He turned to Hiruzen, asking, may I take my daughter home, Hokage-sama? Of course. Give my regards to Hana-chan. Certainly, Hokage-sama, said Hiyashi, walking over to pick up Hinata. Naruto levitated Hinata into Hiyashi's arms, causing Hiyashi's jaw to drop. He glanced at Hiruzen. We'll talk more at the next council meeting, mouthed the Sandame. Hiyashi walked out, Hinata held in his arms. He smiled as he looked down at her. My daughter is in love with a man whose powers we have never seen before. I'm too old for this shit, he thought with a grin. Before the Hokage could say anything else, a dog-masked Anbu appeared in front of him on one knee. You summoned me, Hokage-sama? Asked the masked ninja. Yes, Inu. Would you please look behind you? Of course, sir, said Inu, turning to see Naruto lounging against a section of the wall. Hey, Naruto, he said before turning back to the Hokage. What is it you wanted me for? Inu trailed off, slowly turning back to see Naruto giving him a little wave. Hey, Inu. How's hubby-chan? Naruto was suddenly swept into a hug. You little brat. Hubby-chan and I missed you so much while you were gone. Cried Inu, tears somehow finding a way out of his mask. Inu, can't breathe? Oh, sorry, said Inu, releasing Naruto, who gasped like a fish out of water. Just wanted you to know that your little friend is back, said Hiruzen, smiling as he lit his pipe. Hey, old-timer, shouted Kyuubi, now hanging from the ceiling, still filing his claws. Where's Naruto's house? He and I are kinda tired and want a place to rest. Unfortunately, the Namikaze mansion was destroyed in the Kyuubi's attack, said Hiruzen, blowing a smoke ring. Okay, where's the most dangerous place in Konoha? Training Ground 44, aka the Forest of Death, supplied Inu, pausing as he exited through the window. Why? Asked the Hokage, looking up at the hanging demon quizzically. Cosme and Naruto are gonna set up residence in the forest. Why else? Asked Kyuubi as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Sounds like a great idea, said Naruto, pushing himself off the wall. Care to point us in the right direction? The Hokage shrugged and pointed out the window. After the duo had left, Hiruzen pulled a bottle of sake and a shot glass from the top drawer. I'm too old for this. At least Anko will have someone to threaten, other than Kakashi. The journey to the Forest of Death took a moment. Before they knew it, they were staring at the fenced training ground. So, what do you think? Asked Kyuubi, looking at the 30-foot-tall fence and the forest behind it. It's lively. I can sense all sorts of life in there, particularly some giant tigers, snakes and other dangerous animals, said Naruto, his face forming a smile. Seems like a great place. Okay, let's get going. They both accessed the force and leapt over the gate. Spread out and find a tree that's about 30 feet wide. If you do, signal me through the force. Until then, good luck. Remember, you're no good to me dead, finished Naruto. They both leapt into the forest, searching for a tree that fit Kyuubi's description. It took them an hour to find one, 30 meters from gate 13. Okay, now what? Use the force and build us a house, said Kyuubi, knocking on the tree with his fist. Fine. Naruto raised his hands and pulled. After a few seconds, a section of the tree broke off, the bark and about 3 inches behind it, measuring about 3 feet wide and 6 feet tall. Well, that's a start, said Kyuubi, observing the beginning of the construction. Keep working. I noticed some poisonous plants that we could use. I'll be back in a few. When Kyuubi came back with plants in hand, there was a hollow tree awaiting him. It had 2 floors, plus stairs. Not bad, thought Kyuubi, examining the floor. It was smooth as finished wood, which surprised him. I didn't know Naruto had such control over the force. Kyuubi paused in mid-step. Where is he anyways? Over here, said Naruto, who was using one of his knives to carve a miniature Kyuubi. Where'd all the wood from inside go? Asked Kyuubi. The amount of empty space in the tree would equal a lot of wood scrap. Over there, Naruto said, pointing behind him with his thumb. Kyuubi looked past to see an immense pile of wood stacked as tall as he and Naruto were tall. What'll we do with that? Carve furniture? Fun. Lightsabers? Sure. By the way, what happened to that secretary? Nothing, physically. Mentally is another matter. 3 hours later, Sarutobi Hiruzen wished he knew a way he could avoid the plague paperwork that seemed to never end. He had just begun to put Naruto's acceptance letter into the academy when an Anbu brought in another stack. He looked up, thinking to see Amy, but saw a Tori-masked Anbu instead. Where's Amy? Hospital, Hokage-sama, was his terse answer before the Anbu disappeared. Why is she in the hospital? Because Kyuubi here had a lot of anger to unleash, said Naruto as he and Kyuubi entered via the window. I see. There is a door, you know? Yeah, we know. We just don't use it. So, where's my papers for the academy? Right here. Your teacher is still the same, as well as your class, said Hiruzen, handing Naruto a sheaf of papers. Great. It will be nice to see Ruka-sensei again, said Naruto, flipping through the papers. Do you want me to keep a low profile or can I show off a bit? Keep a semi-low profile. Some showing off is allowed, but no making Uchiha Sasuke jump off Hokage Mountain, said Hiruzen, glaring at Naruto as he assumed a, who, me? Innocent look. But it would be so much fun, said Kyuubi, who was walking on the underside of the shelving unit by the door. Why are you always bouncing around? After about 15 years of being stuck inside of Blondie's gut, I want to enjoy my freedom as much as possible. Okay, Naruto, report to the academy tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Room 12, same as before. Right, said Naruto as he left through the window. Kyuubi paused as he exited through the window. Hey, you know paperwork would be much easier with Kage Bunshin, don't you think? Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage, known as the Shinobi no Kami and the Professor, broke down in tears and hugged Kyuubi, saying, Arigato, many times over. Get off of me, yelled Kyuubi before using a shunshin to escape the elder shinobi's chokehold. Only girls, man, said Kyuubi shaking his fist at Hiruzen. Sorry, little overreaction. No kidding. The next day, Naruto leapt over the fence surrounding his new forest home. Let's see, judging by the sun, I have an hour before it's time to head to class. Wonder if that Uchiha has grown a brain or not. As he walked through the town, the villagers whispered amongst themselves at the appearance of a Sunin nin in their midst. Naruto smiled beneath his mask. At least no one recognizes me. Let's see how Ichiraku is doing, thought Naruto as he took a side street leading to his favorite restaurant. He brushed aside the cloth that barred the entrance and sat down on one of the stools. He smiled as Ayame approached, wondering if she'd recognize him. Welcome to Ichiraku's What Can I Get For You? It's been a long time, hasn't it, Ayame Oni-chan? Ayame was taken aback by this. She had never met this Suna nin and yet he referred to her as his older sister. I'm sorry. I don't believe we've met. Naruto smiled again. Of course we've met. Why else would I call you Oni-chan? By the way, how is Tucci doing? How do you know my Tosen? Asked Ayame, growing more confused. Naruto pulled down his face mask, revealing his smiling face and his whisker birthmarks. Recognize me now? Naruto, shouted Ayame, throwing herself over the counter to hug Naruto. He laughed and returned the hug. Nice to see you too, Ayame. Tosen, come here. Naruto's back, called Ayame, looking to the back of the ramen stall. Tucci walked to the front, wiping his hands on a towel. He smiled widely as he saw his favorite customer and close friend. Naruto, is it really you? It's been so long. Naruto reached over and clasped hands with Tucci. It has been too long, my friend. Are you back for the academy? Asked Ayame, still hugging Naruto. Yep, I had to take a year off to train my new abilities I unlocked. I see. While I'm here, can I have my usual? You still remember it, right? Of course we do. 14 bowls of miso ramen. Coming right up, said Tucci as he and Ayame sprang into action. Within minutes, Naruto had his food. By the way, what are your new abilities? Asked Ayame, giving way to her curiosity. Naruto froze, his chopsticks halfway to his mouth. He put his food back down and leaned forward. "Do you really want to know?" he asked, fixing her with his blue-eyed gaze. "Yes. Very well. Watch closely," he said as he pointed down at his food. Ayame looked down, watching his ramen. It began to float up, leaving the bowl entirely. Not a drop fell as he levitated the food up to the roof and back down. Tuchi's and Ayame's jaws dropped, shock apparent on their faces. "I'm telekinetic, among other things," said Naruto as he turned back to his food. He consumed the rest of his food and paid the Ichirakuses handsomely, repaying them for the times he had no money yet was given ramen anyways. When Tuchi tried to refuse the money, Naruto just passed his hand in front of his face. "It's alright for me to pay you back," said Naruto. "It's alright for you to pay me back," repeated Tuchi. Ayame's jaw dropped again as Naruto smiled at her. "I'm telepathic, too." "Yane," said Naruto, leaving the stand. "Okay, saw GG, Ayame ni-chan and Tuchi. Gotta get to the academy." Naruto ran up part of a wall then rebounded his way to the top. Harder than using chakra and kept him on his toes. Once he reached the roof, he sped off to the academy. If his memory served him correctly, it was straight ahead. He waved at the Anbu patrolling the area as he passed, jumping 2 roofs at a time. He sensed the astonishment from the masked ninja as he continued on his way. He stopped at the last house before the academy. He perched on the short wall that separated the roof from empty space. He closed his eyes for a moment, sensing for the presence of his former and now current teacher. Finding it, he smiled. Through the window he watched Iruka perform his trademarked Oni-Hitsu no Jutsu to quiet the class. He smiled and readied himself for a jump. In the classroom, "Today we are having a review on Henge no Jutsu. All you have to do is transform into me," said Iruka as he stepped out from behind his desk. "Line up, please, and show me your jutsu." Before the class could move, a sandy-colored ball flew through the window with a crash. The ball hit the ground and rolled to a stop beside Iruka before springing up to reveal itself to be a ninja. "Who are you?" asked Iruka, watching the ninja warily. His only response was a sheaf of papers thrust in his direction. Naruto watched the class, identifying the ones he knew. Nara Shikamaru and Akamichi Choji were in one of the back rows, eating and sleeping as usual. Yamanaka Ino and Haruno Sakura both were in the seats near Uchiha Sasuke, both vying for his attention. "Still going through their fangirl stage, I see." Inuzuka Kiba and Aburame Shino were talking to their respective companions, Akamaru and the Kakaichu. No surprises there. Hinata was sitting in a middle row next to the only available seat. Still unconfident in her skills. "We will teach her to be confident, won't we, Kyubi?" "Damn right. And while we're at it, you might reveal your feelings about each other, fall deeper into love, go on dates, get married, have kids, etc. Aren't we getting ahead of ourselves? Just covering all the bases." "Right," thought Naruto as he turned to Iruka. He had finished reading the paperwork and addressed the class. "Class, this is our new student. Some of you might recognize him. He will be taking the academy test when the rest of you do. Are there any questions? How come he gets to join us and bypass all this history and stuff we've been learning and go right to the exam?" shouted a kid in the back row. "Don't recognize him. Must not be a clan nin," thought Naruto. Iruka began to speak, but was interrupted by Naruto. "I have been here before. I left because I needed to train my new abilities. The Hokage has reinstated me as an academy student and therefore I am on the same level as you," said Naruto, glaring at the civilian hopeful. "Yes, well, why don't you introduce yourself to the class and answer some questions they might have?" said Iruka, slightly miffed at being interrupted. "Of course, Iruka-sensei. What did you learn outside the village?" asked Kiba, scratching Akamaru's head. "Oh, a little of this, a little of that," said Naruto, avoiding the question. "Maybe I'll show you some time. What's with the clothes? You look like you'd be more at home in Suna," asked Shino, watching Naruto behind his tinted sunglasses. "I started my journey in Hai no Kuni, had to go to Suna for some things, went to Kumogakure, and then back to Suna for a while. Due to the heat of the desert, my clothes had to change from near black to this sandy color." "What is your name?" asked Hinata, staring at him with her Byakugan active. Strange, she thought. I swear I've seen him before. I can't see his face through his scarf. "My name is Uzumaki Naruto. It is nice to see you again," said Naruto, pulling down his face mask. The class burst into shouts. Everyone clamoring for the teacher's attention, forcing Iruka's hand in using the Oni Hitsu no Jutsu for the second time. "Enough!" shouted Iruka, glaring at all the students in turn. After the class settled, he turned back to Naruto. "Naruto, please continue." "Arigato, Iruka-sensei. Who else has a question? How come you got to leave? You're just the dead last," shouted Sakura. Naruto stared at her contemptuously. "You, in the training bra, don't test me." The resulting silence was deafening. Iruka swore he would have heard a pin drop. Kiba began to laugh, slowly followed by Choji, Ino, and Shikamaru. The rest of the class followed. Even the normally stoic Shino cracked a grin. Sakura was furious. How dare he disrespect me in front of Sasuke-kun? "All right, that's enough," shouted Iruka, quelling the laughter. Kiba picked himself off the floor. Choji went back to eating chips at hyperspeed. Shikamaru went back to sleep and Shino merely pushed his glasses higher onto his head. "Naruto, perhaps you can show the class some of the jutsu you've learned over your travels. After, of course, you show us that you can perform Henge no Jutsu," said Iruka. "Certainly." Naruto flicked his hand at his side into a half-ram seal. Henge. Naruto transformed into the Hokage wearing his ceremonial robes and hat. "Iruka, why are these children in here? They should be outside, enjoying the weather." "Very funny, Naruto." "I thought so," said Naruto, resuming his normal form. "Okay, everyone, outside for taijutsu practice and Naruto's jutsu demonstration." Naruto leapt up onto the wall, escaping the horde of stampeding ninja hopefuls. Iruka looked up from the floor. "I should have done that. Let's hurry outside before every fangirl in class decides to make their move for the Uchiha's virginity." "Outside? Okay, everyone, Naruto has agreed to demonstrate one jutsu from his arsenal." "Naruto, whenever you're ready." Naruto nodded at Iruka before flashing through hand seals. "Raiden. Raiko Enko no Jutsu." Arcs of lightning raced from his hands into the air, crackling and sizzling in mid-air, glowing eerie blue-white. Naruto lowered his arms, allowing the lightning to die out. "Very nice, Naruto. I assume you learned that in Kumo?" asked Iruka, smiling at Naruto. "No, I made it myself." "Really? That's very impressive. Arigato, sensei. Now, it's time for taijutsu practice. Grab a partner and begin sparring." That statement created mayhem. Every girl in the class other than Hinata converged on Sasuke, all vying for his attention. Kiba paired up with Shino. Both had animal companions and decided that they work well together. Shikamaru and Choji went off to spar. Well, maybe not spar but eat and sleep some more. Naruto walked over to Hinata, who was busy twiddling her fingers. "Would you like to spar?" he asked, extending his hand towards her. Good, let's go," Naruto said, pulling her along to an empty section of the academy grounds. He let go of her hand, walked a few steps and spun on his heel. "Ready? Don't worry. We'll start off slow and then speed up." Naruto dropped into a sparring stance, left foot forward, right foot back, forming an L with his feet. His left arm was held low, protecting his body while his right hovered at neck level. "Come on, Hinata. You won't hurt me and I know you'll do well. You can't disappoint me. Smooth, classy, worthy of my container." "Shut up, I'm focusing here." "Not working too well, is it?" "Shut up." He stretched out with the force and siphoned off Hinata's insecurities. As her level of fear reduced, she began to stand straighter and dropped into a Juken stance. Left arm and leg outstretched while the right arm and leg were back. Her hands were knife hands, both palms down. One hand hovering in the air above her foot while the other hovered a few inches from her. "Concentrate, Naruto." Naruto stepped forward, moving at a quarter of his speed. He slowly punched at Hinata's head. Hinata activated her Byakugan and pushed his hand away with her right before aiming to strike a couple of his arms tenketsu. She moved at the same speed as him, moving slowly, Tai Chi-like. He smiled as she pressed the assault. As more blows were exchanged, they sped up, always moving at the same speed. "Not bad," said Naruto as he dodged a particularly close Juken strike that targeted his shoulder tenketsu. As he crouched, he spun on his heel, using his other leg to sweep at Hinata's feet. He connected, sending Hinata onto her back. He looked down at the Hyuga heiress, a smile lighting his features. "You will have to do better." Naruto felt her confidence take a blow. Come on, he said as he stood and beckoned to her with his fingers. His smile grew as she performed a kip-up, once again dropping into her Jukin fighting stance. Hinata charged, attacking as she went. Naruto's smile faded as he twisted and turned as he retreated, occasionally using a pushing block for any close shots. Drop and hit her foot when she steps. Why? Just do it. As Hinata stepped forward, Naruto crouched slightly and snapped a kick at her hip. When Hinata attempted to step, her foot was no longer there to put weight on. The end result was Hinata falling onto Naruto, driving both of them to the ground. Naruto smiled again as he lay on the ground, pinned by Hinata, who was lying on top of him. She opened her eyes to find Naruto's face a mere inch from hers. Good, said Naruto. Very good, said Iruka, watching from the sidelines with the rest of the class. A few cat calls and whistles were let out by the rest of the class. Naruto and Hinata both looked at the crowd. Naruto waved to the crowd while Hinata blushed tomato red. Would you two mind getting up? Asked Iruka, smiling at the pair as Hinata sprang off Naruto. Naruto performed a handless kip-up and brushed off his cloak. Same time tomorrow, Hinata-chan? He asked, smiling at the blushing heiress. Hinata blushed harder as she nodded. Until tomorrow then. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.